say, if you're a beautiful woman, you're bold, you're smart, you're intelligent, and of course you're going to be a world leader if you're not already one, please, I'd like you to say good morning. Ah, beautiful. So let's do that with the men. So I'd like the men to respond now. So of course, like we say, if you're Nigerian, you are no dogu, like they say, and you know what I'm talking about. You got it as a man. Looks, the words, the pockets, the accounts. I can see some men laughing. All right, all the men in the room, I'd like to say good morning. The women are not impressed. We want to be sure that, you know. So I'd like the men to do this again. Good morning, all the men in the room. Thank you so much. I hope you had a great night, and I'm very excited to see you here again today. It's going to be a wonderful day, better than yesterday, of course. Like they say, the latter shall be better than the former. We're about to get started, so I'd like the ushers to please help us get a hall organized. I understand some people are at the exhibition stand, some are having tea, some are chatting just around this premises or around this venue. We'd like you to please get them into the room and get seated. Ushers, please get to work. Thank you very much. Thank you. And by the way, I'd like to say good morning to the Secretariat staff. I see you. I don't think that was mentioned yesterday. The Secretariat staff, I'd like you to please just wave. We see you. We see the work you're doing. Good morning to you. And of course, the sound team, the audio and visual team, thank you so much for a great work yesterday. It's going to be much better today. So in a few minutes, we're going to get started. And when we do, we're going to move with the speed of light just so we can conclude all that we have to do today, since today is the last day of this summit. Now, we're going to do something beautiful. Just quickly do this. You know, there's this discussion I heard two professors talking about the word complete and finished. And the discussion was about the fact that the dictionary does not really explain what these two words mean. What is complete, what is finished, and all of that. And, you know, the arguments about the definition of the two words. So I'd like to find out in this room, maybe someone here can help me with the definition of what complete is and what finished is. Anyone? Just a little teaser before we get started. Anyone wants to help me? Good morning, sir. So could you help us? What is complete and what is finished?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right. By complete means something you have started, it comes to an end. Well, finished is when you have something and it got completed. It's called finish.
All right, please a round of applause for him. So maybe I should hear from a woman now, quickly. I'd like you to tell me, well, in your own words, what is complete and what is finished?
Maybe I'll start with asking a question. Is it in my dialect or in English or in Pidgin? Complete. Completely finished. It's completely finished.
Amazing. Please a round of applause for her. Completely finished is completely finished. Of course, you know, Nigerian English, we have our own way with words and all. So maybe I'll hear from one more person. And I'd like this beautiful woman to tell me, in your own words, what is complete, what is finished?
What's complete? What is complete is when something is comprising of a whole. It is complete. And then when you get to the end of a task, and because tasks have benchmarks, you know, that indicate the completeness. And so when you meet those benchmarks and parameters, then you have completed. And then when you talk about finished, I believe finished has to do more with when you have exhausted something, when you have exhausted either a particular, what I call it, maybe like water, for example, and if it's finished, it is finished. At the same time, when you also complete a task and there are no further parameters for you to, to accomplish, then you are actually finished.
Beautiful. Please, a round of applause for her. All right, amazing. Maybe we should, okay, we have someone lifting his finger there, so we'll just do one more, and I'll tell you what the conclusion was for these two professors after the argument for over an hour about complete and finished.
All right. In Nigerian context, if you get married to a virtuous person or maybe a good person, then you are complete. And in other way around, if you get married to a wrong person, sorry, you are finished.
Please, a round of applause for him. It looks like he was there when the conversation actually took place, between the two professors I was talking about. Because the conclusion at the end of the day was the best way to describe what complete and finished is when a man gets a good woman, he's complete. When he gets a bad woman, he's finished. And when he's with the bad woman and the good woman meets him or finds out, he's completely finished. Please, a round of applause for yourselves. All right, beautiful. Of course, we're ready now, and we're going to be done, or if you like, the summit would be finished, completely finished at the end of today. So just to let you know, or rather to get you rest assured that everything is going to be in order, smooth, interesting, so much to learn and so much to take away. I'm sure you've been networking with all the events that we've had from Tuesday, and we're going to be seeing results and changing the narrative in Nigeria. And for those outside Nigeria, I'm sure we'd also get to hear some of your stories. All right, thank you. So ushers, please help us get everyone in. Help us get everyone in. And just to save some time, I'll quickly run through a list of dignitaries that we have present. As I mentioned yesterday, we have the list of everyone, or rather the names and details of everyone present in this room. But because of time, we cannot take them all, and I know you understand. You are all important to us. You are all distinguished guests, and we do sincerely appreciate you. But for time, so I'll just go through some dignitaries that we have. I'd like to begin today with our sponsors, and I'd like you to please appreciate them when I'm done running through this list. Of course, Segilola Resources Operating Limited, Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, FG Gold Bucksmore Hills, Taraba State Government, Faithful Minerals Mining, African Minerals Strategy Group, Excalibur Multiphysics, Staron Mining, ASBA and Western International, Enugu State Government, Matrix Energy Group, of course, media partners, African Leadership Magazine, Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development, Premium Times, and News Direct. Please, a round of applause for our sponsors. That applause can be better. All right, thank you so much. And we're still expecting our foreign ministers to get seated, so until they come, I would, of course, introduce them again. So with our sponsors done, I'd like to mention the states that are here represented. We have with us the representative from Abia State. Please, a round of applause. Of course, they spoke yesterday. We had time for the state governments that are here represented to speak. And so just to let you know that we do sincerely appreciate you. So the representative from Abia State, Ebonyi State, Enugu State, Nasarawa, Zamfara, Akwa Ibom, Kwara State, and of course Taraba State. We do sincerely appreciate you for being a part of this summit. Please, a round of applause for the state governments that are represented in this summit. Today we'll be hearing from Taraba State, and that's because they are sponsors of this event. And I've been reliably informed that the representative of the governor of Taraba State is here. And just all right, like we say on TV, we apologize for the break-in transmission. So I just want to give you the name of the representative of the governor. Of course, the Honorable Commissioner, Ministry of Energy and Economy Development, Engineer Naomi Tanko Agbo is with us. Of course, we would introduce her. Please, a round of applause. Yes, that's in order. Thank you very much. The Honorable Commissioner, Ministry of Energy and Economy Development is representing the Executive Governor of Taraba State at this event. We do appreciate you for coming. And we know that there's a delegation here all the way from Taraba State. The Honorable Commissioner, Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry, Mr. Peter George, is here present. A round of applause for him. We see you. Thank you. Engineer Aishat Bade, the Honorable Commissioner, Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, is also here present. Thank you so much for joining us. Honorable Kabiru Jallo, Chairman, Taraba Investment Promotion Agency. Thank you very much. Ejiro Jakpa, Program Director, Strategy and Portfolio Delivery Service, Taraba State. Please, a round of applause for them. And Dr. Joel Ebute, Director, Strategy and Portfolio Delivery Office, Taraba State. Please, a round of applause for the delegation from Taraba State. Thank you. Taraba is gift to the nation, and we see the work that the governor is doing. We appreciate you for being a part of this summit. So we'll just take a break, a short break, musical interlude, and when we get back, we'll get into all that we have on the agenda this morning. The focus is on investing in natural resources, projects and businesses as a pathway to development, private sector focus. That's our target of discussion today on this summit. So we'll just take this musical interlude briefly. When I get back here, we'll begin properly with all that the agenda holds. Thank you very much.
bashiranga mo ana sara ugo na sara ugo kasi mukutu kuza kasi kuma maka kuza mo mukana tete mambo kasi mupu manga kasi maka ya ora sa jambo kasi nanu mukusme sa gasela mala maya ya ka fa o bajiri mate chemo kaha ya ka kira numa ya ka kira numa ka ba me di me kuza kama ya ka te me kya menga ate me kya menga ko me la ngolo me te me kya menga na mo ko sha gora na mai me so ko la ngbenga na me se fi manga na me si chima ye ngala mo maka kangba mo mo pu ko zanga mo duka me yitu na me bang ba na me hangba na me vi na me ko sha gunga na me hote wu ko zanga mo ko bang ba la ka na ko ka
Emi ndi oda mwabi. Emi wujidi gidi zakunza. Afe Sekina Ibrahim. Sekina Ibrahim de Ghana Sarayigo. Kaha Shimayene. Nza Maryland. Lolo Podima, the hair of the Pololo La Toduka. I am a Kamuchi Mushpilangala Kena, Ambasradimo, Bawiri Masradabu, the Omakena, Kamush Pikenawi, the Pupunza, Yafa, a Wugra de Leshi, Asradimo, the Colonna Motamekadi, our baby, Colonna Motamekadi Lats. Ugra de leche, ugra de pia. A tota me que a de do cadepo. Miami.
Kali batumsa kasi mo wabashiri nga mo ana sara ugo na sara ugo kasi mo kutu kuza kasi kuma maka kuza mo mukana tete mambo kasi mo pu manga kasi maka ya ora sa jambo kasi nanu mo kusme sa gasela mala maya ya ka fa o bajiri mate chemo kaha ya ka kira numa ya ka kira mama ka ba me di me kuza kama ya ka te me kya menga ate me kya menga ko me la ngolo me te me kya menga na mo ko sha gora na mai me so ko la ngbenga na me se fi manga na me si chima ye ngala mo maka kangba mo no pu ko zanga mo duka me yitu na me bang ba na me hangba na me vi na me ko sha gunga na me hote wu ko zanga mo ko bang ba la ka na ko ka
Ubo mushi de gode. Emi ndi oda mwabi. Emi wujidi gidi zakunza. Afe Sekina Ibrahim. Sekina Ibrahim de Ghana Sarayigo. Kaha Shimayene. De Nza Maryland. Otumola me akwa saka ko kada. Tata toladira za toladiwa era eskufi mai fifi lolo podima de hero de pololo la toduka I am kamuki mush pelengala kena. Ang basra di mo ba wiri masra da bukumo. De o ma kena kamush pikena we. De kukunza. Yafa. E wugra de leshi. To. Asra di mo. De ko na mo temekadi. Awala baby ko na mo temekadi lat. Wugra de leshi e wugra de kuya. A to temekadi du kadikpo. Miami.
Tumsa kasimu wabashiri mo bashiri nga mo anasara ugo kasimu kutukuza kasakuma maka kuza mo mugana tete mambo kasimu pu manga kasimu ka yawara sa jambo kasana no kusima sa gasela mala maya ya ka hawo ba jiri mate chemo ka haye ka kira mama I got a mamma, come on, me, come here, got to make a member. At the make a manga, go Maryland, going to make a manga, and push out water, and my name so long bangla, and Mr. Himanga, and Mrs. My younger more, but a cambamo, look book was a muduka. May you to the man. Bang on a man, banga, the man, and a push out bunga. Na mhote huko za moko bangala ga moko ga ka
ubo mushi de gode emi ndi oda mwabi emi wugide za kunza are sekina Ibrahim de Ghana sara igu ka ha shimayene de kunza Maryland Tumola me akwa saka ko kada ta tola diwa e yara skufi mai fifi lolo podima de hero de pololo la toduka ay me okamuki mush pele ngala kena ang basra di mo ba wiri masra da bukumo de o ma kena kamush pikena we de kukunza yafa e wugra de leshi to asra di mo de ko na mo temekadi awala baby ko na mo temekadi lat wugra de leshi e wugra de kuya a to temekadi du kadikpo Miami.
Tumsa kasimu wabashiri mo bashiri nga mo anasara ugo kasimu kutukuza kasi kuma maka ko zalmo mugana tete mambo kasi mukpu manga kasi maka yawara sa jambo kasi nanu mukpu sa gasela mala maya ya ka fa o jiri mate je kemo ka ha ya ka kira mama ya ka kira mama ka ba mama ji mi ku da ka ma ya ka te me kya membenga ate me kya manga ko me lang bulu me te me kya manga na mukpu sha gora na maya me so ku lang bengala na me sa mi manga na me si mai yengala mo maka kangba mo mukpu ku zanga mo muduka me itu na me bang na me hang banga na me na me ko sha gunga na me hote hu ko zanga mo ko bang bala ga na ko ka ka
ubo mushi de gode emi ndi oda mwabi emi wujidi gide zakunza sekina Ibrahim de Ghana sara igun ka ha shimayene de kunza meri lamu la otumola me akwa saka po kada ta tola diwa de yara skufisi mai fifi lolo podima de hero de pololo la toduka ayeme okamuti mushpele ngala kena amba sara dimo ba wiri masara dabu kuma de o makena kamushpi kena we de kukunza yafa ewugra de leshi to asara dimo de kolo na mota mekadi awala baby kolo na mota mekadi latu ewugra de leshi ewugra de kuya a tota mekadi du kadepo Miami.
Wali batumza kasimu wabashiri mo bashiri nga mo anasara ugo kasimu kutukuza kasimu mama ko zalmo mugana tete mambo kasimu pu manga kasimu ka yawara sa jambo kasimu nanu mukpu sa gasela mala maya ya ka fa o jiri mate je kemo ka ha ya ka kira mama ya ka kira mama ka ba mama ji mi ku da ka mo ya ka te me kya membenga ate me kya manga ko me lang bulu me te me kya manga na mukpu sha gora na maya me so ku lang bengala na me sa mi manga na me si mai yengala mo maka kangba mo mukpu ku zanga mo muduka me itu na me bang na me hang banga na me na me ko sha gunga na me hote hu ko zanga mo ko bang bala ga na ko ka ka
ubo mushi de gode emi ndi oda mwabi emi wujidi gide zakunza sekina Ibrahim de Ghana sara igun ka ha shimayene de kunza meri lamu la otumola me akwa saka po kada ta tola diwa de yara skufisi mai fifi lolo podima de hero de pololo la toduka ayeme okamuti mushpele ngala kena amba sara dimo ba wiri masara dabu kuma de o makena kamushpi kena we de kukunza yafa Ugra de Lishi. To Asaradimu. Yokola na moto mekiadi. Awala baby kuna moto mekiadi latu. Ugra de Lishi na ugra de kuya. Atote mekiadi du kadepo. Miami.
Wali batumza kasimu wabashiri mo bashiri nga mo anasara ugo kasimu kutukuza kasakuma maka kuza mo mugana tete mambo kasimu manga kasimu yawara za jambo kasana no kusumeza gashala mala maya yakafa obajiri mate kemo kahaya kekira no mama Ayo que na mama kama mezi miyikuza. Kama ya kata mekam menga ata mekam menga ko melang kono meta mekam menga na mukosha gora na mai muso kulang bengala na meza himanga na mezi chimai yengala mo makakamba mo mukbu ko zanga mumuduka meyi tu na me bang na me hang banga na me na mukosha gunga na mhote huko za moko bangalaga moko kai
ubo mushidi do bode emi ndi woda mwabi emi wujidi gidi zakunza Sekina Ibrahim de Ghana Sara Igu Kaha Shimayene de Gunza Mary Lamu Tumola me akwa saka ko kada ta toladira za toladiwa res kufisi mai fifi lolo podima de hero de pololo la toduka ay me okamuchi mushpile ngala kena amba sradi mo ba wiri masra da bu mo de o ma kena kamushpi kena we de kukunza yafa Ugra de Lishi. To Asaradimu. Yokola na moto mekiadi. Awala baby kuna moto mekiadi latu. Ugra de Lishi na ugra de kuya. Atote mekiadi du kadepo. Miami.
Wali batumza kasimu wabashiri mo bashiri nga mo anasara ugo kasimu kutukuza kasakuma maka kuza mo mugana tete mambo kasimu manga kasimu yawara za jambo kasana no kusumeza gashala mala maya yakafa obajiri mate kemo kahaya ka kira na mama ahaya ka kira na mama ka ba mo meti mi yukuza ka mo ya ka ta me kya me nga ata me kya nga ko me lang bo me ta me kya nga na mo ko sha go ra na ma ya me so ko lang ben ga na me za me ma nga na me si chi ma ye nga mo ma ka kang ba mo no ku ko za nga mo duka me yi tu na me bang ba na me hang ba nga na me he na me ko sha go nga na me ho te hu ko za mo ko bang ba la ka mo ko ka ka
Ubo mushi de gode. Emi ndi wo da mwabi. Emi wujide gede zakunza. Are sekina Ibrahim. Sekina Ibrahim de Ghana sara igun. Ka shimayene. De kunza meri lamu. Le tumola me akba saka ko kada. Tata toladi da za toladi wa yara skufi si mai fifi lolo kodima de hero de pololo la toduka ay me o kamuki mush pele ngala kena an ba sradi mo ba wiri masra da bu mo de o ma kena kamush bi kena we de kukunza yafa e wugra de leshi to asaradimu de kolo na moto mekiadi awala baby kolo na moto mekiadi latu ugra de leshi ugra de kuya atote mekiadi du kadiko Miami.
Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to the second day of AFNIS 2024. Before we begin this event officially, we would like to ask the ushers to please get everyone seated, and those outside this room, into this room, and of course, seated. I'd like the ushers to quickly do that in a few minutes because we have the Honorable Minister of Solid Minerals Development already seated with us. Once again, good morning, everyone. Good to see you today, being Thursday. And of course, it is still AFNIS, the African Natural Resources and Energy Investment Summit, which is all about mining, power, energy, renewable and non-renewable sectors coverage. This program is an annual event, and this is the third edition with one goal: the strategic and cross-sectoral development of Africa's natural resources. We are delighted to have you join us again today. For those just coming in this morning, we had a great time yesterday. And just to let you know that today is fully loaded, and you will be leaving with so much more. And that's for those who already got something yesterday. If you are excited to be here, please put your hands together for yourself. Just to quickly make some recognitions before we kickstart the event with the national anthem and then progress with the agenda. It's an honor to have again with us our host, the very amazing Honorable Minister of Solid Minerals Development. Please put your hands together for Dr. Henry Oladele Alake. Thank you very much, sir. We do appreciate you for your time with us yesterday and all that you're doing in the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development. Also present with us, and a special guest, is the Executive Governor of Taraba State, who is ably represented by the Honorable Commissioner of Energy and Economic Development from Taraba State. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Engineer Naomi Tanko Agbo. We have the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development with us. please make welcome Dr. Mary Ogbe. Thank you very much for coming, ma'am. Also present with us are ministers, foreign ministers who are joining us. We have His Excellency Julius Matai, the Minister of Mines and Mineral Resources from the Republic of Sierra Leone. A round of applause, please. His Excellency Martin Abucha, the Minister of Mining, Republic of South Sudan. Her Excellency Monica Chang Anamano, Minister of Mining from the Republic of Malawi. Also present is His Excellency Wilmot Paye, the Minister of Mines and Energy, Liberia. And of course, His Excellency Omar Jimmy Musa, Deputy Minister of Petroleum, Mines and Geology, all the way from Chad. A round of applause, please, for all our foreign ministers. We also have in our midst the Managing Director and CEO of Rural Electrification Agency, Abba Abubakar Aliyu. Please, a round of applause for him. Other CEOs are here present. The CEO of Extradite Consulting Limited, Eyo Ekpo, is here. The President, Geological Society of Africa, Professor Olugbenga Okunlola. The CEO of Faithful Minerals Mining, Dr. Lawrence Ajayi. Professor Kevin Urama, Chief Economist and Vice President of the African Development Bank, is also with us in this room. Please, a round of applause for them all. And yes, as already mentioned, we have some state governments that are here represented. Abia State, Ebonyi State, Enugu State, Nasarawa, Zamfara, Akwa Ibom, Kwara State, and Taraba State. Please, let's appreciate all the state governments that are with us for this event. Without wasting much time, we'll continue with recognitions much later. We'd like to get into the details of this event. And to signal that is the national anthem. May we please rise. Round of applause. And please take your seats. Thank you very much, and a warm welcome to you once again. It would be a sin for me to begin this event without again acknowledging the presence of the Secretary General of the African Mineral Strategy Group, who has been with us since the beginning of this event. Please, let's appreciate and recognize His Excellency Moses Michael Ngadu. And of course, I can see that we have the managing partner of Core International seated today. First time ever seeing him sit for this. Of the governor of Taraba State. His Excellency Dr. Agbo Kefas is here represented by engineer Naomi Tanko Agbo, and she will be given a keynote spotlight on Taraba State. A round of applause for her as she steps forward. That applause can continue to put springs on her steps as she comes forward. Just to let you know that Taraba State is one of our sponsors. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much for that introduction. You've been very kind in your words. Thank you. First of all, good morning to all participants, ladies and gentlemen here present. Please permit me to stand on the existing protocols while I send the apologies of my governor, His Excellency Dr. Abu Kefas, the governor of Taraba State. Unfortunately, he really wanted to be here in person, recognizing the importance of this summit, but he had some clashing events and he sent his apologies. So firstly, while I go through his speech, I would also want to thank my colleagues here as well that have also been here since the beginning of the summit. Firstly, let me say how pleased I am to join you at this third edition of the African Natural Resource and Energy Investment Summit, AFNIS 2024. The timing of this summit cannot be overemphasized, as the opportunities before all of us here today are enormous in a difficult time as this in Nigeria. The gathering of all participants here is simply a testament to our shared commitment in leveraging Africa's rich natural resources for sustainable economic development. This summit signifies another milestone in the journey towards realizing the African mining vision. This vision, which was embraced by the African heads of state in 2009, is focused on harnessing Africa's extensive minerals to combat poverty and continuous underdevelopment. It also seeks to shift the African narrative from the perceived conflict and insecurity driven by resources, environmental degradation, resource costs, and marginalized communities to a narrative of sustainable growth and socio-economic development. For us in Taraba State, this summit is key and plays a role in our developmental plan for economic sustainability that was adopted at the beginning of my administration. Taraba State is rich in mineral resources, including gold, limestone, lithium, lead, and lots more, as you can see in our stand, at our display stand here today. Despite this wealth, the sector remains underdeveloped, contributing only to a fraction of our subnational GDP. This summit represents a pivotal opportunity to discuss strategies for transforming our mineral wealth into tangible economic benefits. The mining sector offers significant opportunities for investment and economic growth. My government is committed to creating an enabling environment for investors, including with policies that ensure transparency, sustainability, and community engagement. By investing in modern mining technologies that are environmentally friendly, practices, and beneficiation industries, we can ensure that our mineral wealth contributes to long-term economic prosperity. Powering the progress using energy. Energy is recognized as a critical factor to the economic development of Taraba State. The state is endowed with vast renewable energy resources and has the most hydroelectric potential in Nigeria. These hydroelectric resources comprise of both small and large hydroelectric sites, thanks to our numerous rivers and waterfalls. In addition to our hydroelectric potential, we are developing infrastructure to extend the national grid and invest in distribution infrastructure of power. The enormous energy poverty within the state, of which my administration is addressing, cannot be overemphasized. Our state of 16 local governments, out of our state of 16 local governments, we have 5 local governments that are presently not connected to the national grid. This tells you why energy is of focus. Our goal is to ensure that every part of Taraba State has access to affordable and reliable electricity, which will spur industrial development, create jobs, and improve the quality of life for our people. The state currently has the 40 megawatt Kashimbila Dam that is operational. The state is also host to the Mambila Hydroelectric Power Project, which is said to be one of the largest hydro sites in Africa, which has unfortunately stalled on the part of the federal government. In order to curtail this reoccurrence to other future energy projects, my administration has worked on the state's legal framework for the electricity sector to ensure the establishment of a state electricity regulatory authority, which will oversee the implementation and the enforcement of electricity law and provide clear guidance for licensing to investors, tariffs, and compliance monitoring to promote sustainable energy practices and environmental stewardship. We believe that the implementation of this law will foster economic growth, enhance energy security, and improve the quality of life of our citizens. We also recognize the need for access to reliable power as an essential for industrialization and economic growth. Our testament to this is in a new industrial park currently being developed in the state, with different clusters ranging from agro-processing cluster, mineral beneficiation clusters, logistic clusters, and lots more. In order to harness our natural resources effectively, we need substantial investment. Taraba State offers a favorable investment climate with incentives for investors in the natural resources sector. We are working to improve our financial infrastructure, ease of doing business, to ensure policy stability and foster partnership with international financial institutions. By creating a robust financial ecosystem, we will attract the necessary capital to develop our natural resources sustainably. Now, agriculture. Agriculture remains a major contributor to our state's economy. Taraba State's fertile land and favorable climate makes it ideal for a wide range of crops, including cassava, maize, rice, and tea. As you can see, we have at our stand a display of one of our tea companies, the Highland Tea Company. On our part, as a state, we're investing in modern agricultural practices, irrigation systems, and value-added processing to increase productivity and ensure food security. Our collaboration with reputable institutions has enabled my administration to distribute over 500 tractors from the Czech Republic to farmers within the state as a means of enhancing mechanized agricultural production. Improved seedlings and fertilizer have also been distributed to double the yields of local farmers. This is a testament to our drive as a state, and these were all achieved in less than 1 year of my oath of office. By integrating agriculture with other sectors such as energy, finance, solid minerals, we can create a resilient and diversified economy. Investment opportunities that are within Taraba State. Taraba State offers a wealth of investment opportunities across solid minerals, energy, agriculture, and tourism. My government's commitment is of good governance, transparency, and sustainability to make us an attractive destination for investors. We invite you to explore the potential of our mining sector. Invest in our renewable energy projects, partner with us in agricultural development, and help develop our tourism industry, as this will contribute all to our growth. In conclusion, the strategic harnessing of solid mineral resources holds the key to unlock significant economic growth for Taraba State. The implementation of transparent policies, investing in technology and infrastructure, engaging local communities, ensuring environmental sustainability, and developing human capital can transform our mineral wealth into a robust pillar of our economy, not just within the state, but also nationally. This summit marks the beginning of a new era of cooperation and commitment. Let us seize this opportunity to build a sustainable and prosperous future for our nation, our state, and our people. We are committed to working with investors, partners, and stakeholders to harness our resources responsibly and ensure that the benefits of development are shared by all. We also recognize the participants that have declared interest already and are willing to make commitments. And furtherance to this, we will be having a meeting with all interested investors at the Taraba State Governor's Lodge tomorrow. I urge you all to take a closer look at the opportunities that Taraba State presents. Let us collaborate, innovate, and invest in a future that promises shared prosperity for all. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you all a successful deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Commissioner for Energy and Economic Development, Taraba State Engineer Naomi Tanko Agbo. We do appreciate it. Please, a round of applause for her. And just to let you know that we're following the news and we see what Taraba State Governor is doing, changing the narrative in Taraba State. Of course, we see him delivering the dividends of democracy to everyone in Taraba, irrespective of tribe, religion, or political affiliations. Please send our warm greetings to him. Thank you very much. Now time to listen to a keynote, and this will be delivered by the Managing Director and CEO of Rural Electrification Agency. He is Abba Abubakar Aliyu. A round of applause for him as he steps forward for his keynote address. All right, looks like we'd have him in the course of this event, so we'd make progress, of course. At this point, we will be having a special announcement and signing ceremony, and it will be done by His Excellency Moses Michael Ngadu. But I'm being told that before that signing ceremony will take place, we would have a brief session, and this will be done by the Senior Advisor, Sustainable Energy for All, Larry Shashere. He's going to be talking to us on plugging the power gap, sustainable solutions for universal energy access keynote. Please, a round of applause for her as she comes forward. This session explores innovative strategies to ensure that all communities, regardless of location, have access to reliable and clean energy. Please pay attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Your Excellencies, governors represented here today, and our host, Honorable Minister of Solid Minerals, Dr. Dele Alake, the Secretary General for the African Minerals Group, His Excellency Moses Ngadu. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a great pleasure for Sustainable Energy for All to be invited to join the Africa Natural Resources and Energy Investment Summit today. As in my view, it affirms the partnership between SE4All and its partner countries on the continent. And I must congratulate our host again and the Africa Mineral Strategy Group for convening what I consider to already be a resounding success. And I think, in my view, it is a success because we are seeing countries on our continent working together and claiming their agency on this important issue. And it was certainly thrilling for me to listen to the interventions by the honorable ministers from around the continent at the Ministerial Roundtable earlier this week. Now, this morning, I'd like to share some insights on the global fight to end energy poverty and progress on steps taken on the continent to address energy access gaps, and our work at SE for All on linking energy access to our work on rare earth minerals, the so-called critical minerals, minerals that have now become critical for the rest of the world. And before I begin that, just to explain, SE for All is the entity within the United Nations system that is mandated to lead on the achievement of SDG 7, which is the SDG on renewable energy and achieving net zero emissions. And we do this by working to support partner countries across the world. My work focuses on Africa, and we do this in a number of ways, which I'll speak to as we continue this morning. Now, in recent years, it's been gratifying to see the concerted effort by various actors across the world to fight energy poverty. Globally, there are 800 million people without access to energy. Sadly, about 600 million of those are on this continent. And while these numbers are daunting, we are seeing an uptick across the continent, with countries wielding their agency, as we've been doing this week, on energy access issues and developing the relevant tools to fight this. And it's been exciting to work with a number of African countries who are prioritizing energy access as a pathway to development and to growth. And I'm going to share some examples of some of this. So for example, in Ghana, we've worked with the Ministry of Energy to launch an energy transition plan, which sets its net zero ambition for 2060, but also takes a look at the whole of the economy and defines not only a net zero pathway, but also an energy access pathway. In Sierra Leone, we've worked with the government to deploy solar power to 6 hospitals across the country, and this is counting. And we're also working with the government to develop a green growth plan, which also defines an energy access pathway and also a green growth pathway for the economy through the Presidential Initiative on Climate Change, Renewable Energy and Food Security. In Malawi and Madagascar, we've also worked with the government there to develop an integrated energy planning tool which supports policymakers and the private sector to generate data and insights that support the identification of priority geographic areas for expanding energy access and least cost technology to be deployed in providing electricity. And Nigeria, our hosts, are not far behind. Indeed, Nigeria led the continent in 2022 with its launch of its own energy transition plan, supported by the Nigeria Energy Transition Office. And this lays out a pathway for Nigeria's energy sector to achieving net zero by 2060. And it reconciles the nation's energy, industrialization, development, and climate goals. Now, in addition, Nigeria has undertaken to implement the largest energy access program on the continent, with its implementation of the Nigeria Electrification Project from 2017. I'm sure my brother, the Managing Director of the Rural Electrification Agency, will be here later today to elaborate on this in more detail. But by my count, the Nigeria Electrification Program has recorded significant successes impacting over 7 million lives, providing over 11,000 MSMEs, medium or micro and small and medium-sized businesses with power, and also connecting 152 mini-grids and with over 1.5 million connections made, and another 1.5 million standalone solar home systems deployed. Now, the successful implementation by the government of Nigeria, going further into the Nigeria example, has led to the development of another energy access program, the Nigeria Distributed Access Through Renewable Energy Scale-Up, the Nigeria DARES program, which is arguably the largest energy access program in the world. DARES aims to scale up the success of the Nigeria Electrification Project through the use of existing technologies like mini-grids, the solar home systems, rooftop solar, and with a focus, all with a focus on productive use, which is key to economic growth. And it projects improving on the success of the Nigeria Electrification Project by over 100%, therefore reaching more people and serving more businesses. The potential for the solid minerals and manufacturing sector is significant, not only in this country, but across the continent. Now, taking the Nigeria example forward, the energy transition plan I mentioned earlier sets out a goal of ramping up generation capacity in the power sector to meet growing energy demand and to displace fuel-based generators. Now, this means that we'll see a rapid adoption of solutions, including solar panels, the lithium batteries, and so on. And at the same time, in the transport sector, the plan also sees a transition to electric mobility, requiring even more batteries. It's important that Nigeria's ambitions to accelerate the energy transition through its energy access programs are closely linked to its industrialization and value creation agenda. While it's important to track the gigawatts of renewable generation capacity and electric vehicles deployed, I propose that there should be a focus on building local value chains to reduce import dependency, support the development of new local industries, and create domestic jobs. And this should be the same for other countries on our continent. Now, on this issue, Sustainable Energy for All is proud to work closely with the government of Nigeria, in particular in its implementation of its green industrialization agenda. Through the Energy Transition Office, the Sustainable Energy for All Africa Renewable Energy Manufacturing Initiative has been working closely with government, industry, financing institutions, development partners, and academia to support local manufacturing, particularly on policy design, skills building, and enterprise support. And we are pleased to be supporting the recently established Presidential Steering Committee on the Project Evergreen, which aims to establish Nigeria's first green manufacturing industrial zone. And our view is that we must protect the planet, but we cannot leave people behind. Now, elaborating further on our Africa Renewable Energy Manufacturing Initiative, we're continuing to work closely with a number of countries, about 9 countries on the continent, Nigeria, Ghana, Algeria, Egypt, Ghana, Morocco, Namibia, South Africa, and Tanzania. And these are countries that we've identified as having medium or a high feasibility to localize solar or battery storage manufacturing capabilities. Within Nigeria, we are working with about 9 Nigerian businesses that are locally assembling solar modules, batteries, and electric vehicles, and delivering facilitation support to them in the form of access to financing, technical partners, mainly in the Global South, and also skilling up and capacity building to ensure that they can scale up their businesses and manufacturing. Now, why would we stop at assembly alone on the continent? Our continent has vast critical mineral resources that are crucial inputs to energy transition technologies, in particular batteries. Now, tapping into those resources, catalyzing investments in local processing and refining, as well as building forward linkages to manufacturing sectors will require a holistic approach and partnerships for enabling policy design, investment mobilization, technology transfer, and equitable community benefit sharing agreements. And that is why at SE4All we have taken a practical approach to supporting countries in their ambitions to unlock greater value from critical minerals, with other partners in academia and in the think tank world. We've recently launched a new initiative to establish the Council for Critical Minerals Development in the Global South. Now, through this platform, we are working closely with governments across the Global South, in Africa, South America, and in Asia, to build a critical mass and a strong advocacy group on this issue, working closely with governments to offer tailored data and analytics support, engage in South-South collaboration on policy, financing, and trade, as well as building local capacity and skills for these new sectors. I believe that we are at an inflection point on the issue of critical minerals, and it is clear that the continent is ready to take leadership in the management of its resources. And we'd like to offer an opportunity for partnership and collaboration with the Ministry of Solid Minerals in Nigeria, as well as the Africa Minerals Strategy Group, as well as other stakeholders working on this issue on this continent to mobilize the partnerships and investments necessary to meet its ambitions and to establish the countries on the continent as critical minerals refiners and renewable energy manufacturing hubs. It's been a very eye-opening last 2 days here, and I certainly look forward to the rest of today, engaging and listening to all other stakeholders today. Thank you so much for listening.
That applause can be better, please, for Larry Shashore. All right, at this point, we're going to have His Excellency Moses Michael Ngadu come up for a special announcement and, of course, the signing ceremony. Please, a round of applause for him as he steps forward.
So on Monday, I went to NTA and it was Good Morning Nigeria. So good morning Nigeria. I guess all of us who are here, we are now Nigerians. So who ate pounded yam and fufu yesterday? You can put up your hand. Pounded yam and fufu? Yeah, you know that's a Nigerian delicacy. You only find it here. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, today is a great day. First, because we are alive. There are people who did not make it through the night, and therefore we should be very thankful. Your Excellency, Dr. Dele Alake, our chief host, and chairman of the Africa Mineral Strategy Group. Of course, in Nigeria, he's your Honorable Minister of Solid Minerals Development, but for us, he's our Africa's minister. The beauty is that our ministers in Africa are one. They do not distinguish themselves from where they come from. So they are ministers of Africa. Your Excellency Monica Changanamuno, I am saying that name because I was hearing people murdering it. I am happy that for the first time my name is 97% being pronounced well. But for my Honorable Minister of Mining of the Republic of Malawi, our geologist, His Excellency Julius Daniel Matai, the Minister of Mines and Mineral Resources of the Republic of Sierra Leone. I am pointing out is to show you all that we have a lot of capacity at the leadership level. So you will not take us for granted. The continent is safe. Well, representing His Excellency Wilmot Paye, the Deputy Minister of Planning of the Republic of Liberia. He has a name which is too complicated to pronounce, and I was hoping that the Nigerians would at least baptize him with an easier name. His Excellency Mulba. That's the easiest we can go with. The first name does not exist in the English dictionary. We also have the Deputy Minister of the Republic of Chad, His Excellency Jimmy Musa Omar, who is with us here. His ministers have been accompanied by technical officials and senior government officials from the countries. From Malawi, we have Dr. Joseph Mkandawire, who is our principal secretary, or what we have here as permanent secretary. Dr. Julius was accompanied by Dr. Cooper John, the director of policy and research, intentional on the critical things that we need on the continent. The Deputy Minister of Planning accompanied himself, so he's fully represented. However, the Minister of Chad brought the biggest delegation. He's accompanied by the Director General of Geology, and he also accompanied by advisors to the Prime Minister as well as to the Minister. I thought it would be good for the people of Nigeria to actually be able to know who else is around so we can interact better, so we can actually be able to network. My team, I am accompanied by Her Excellency, the spouse, the Secretary General. I have to be very safe if I want Agatha Engadu. I think you've heard her pronounce my name, eh? I've been hearing Engadu, but that's good. It's close. I have my Chief of Staff, Mr. Patrick Mulindwa, and we have a media team that is capturing and telling the story. The biggest challenge we have on our continent is we don't tell our story. We don't tell our narrative. We let others drive the story, and we simply react to it and we respond. Today we are here to take actions. On the first day in the ministerial roundtable, question number 4 was, how do we move from talk to action? That is very important, that when we come together, great minds coming together, we shouldn't just end with talking. So today, we are coming to launch an initiative, a simple initiative that is to empower and enable each one of us who is African, each one of us who is of African heritage, to actually make your individual contribution. We are always faced with a situation where we are blaming governments. This government is weak, they are not doing this. We are blaming companies, but we never blame ourselves. The Africa we have today is Africa building Africans. This is the reason why things don't work, because we expect that thing called Africa to build our countries. We expect it to build ourselves. We expect it to build even our families. It should be the other way around. It should be Africans building Africa. Because Africa is but a baby. Together, it is our identity. It does not have the capacity to do anything for us, but we have the capacity to do a lot for Africa. So our initiative is called Africans for Africa. I'm not seeing anybody clapping. It seems you people are not Africans. So Africans for Africa is really a cause where we are saying Africans must provide solutions to Africans' problems. Some of the problems we are the ones who have caused them by association, by connivance, but other problems were caused for us. But as a continent, Africans must take charge. We have the solutions because we know our problems. So therefore, we must come together and be able to start solving these problems together. The second thing that we are trying to build through this initiative is a movement of Africans who are actually doing their part to achieve economic freedom. This is a generational opportunity, a legacy issue. What shall we tell our children and those who are to come? I did my part. Can we comfortably, who are sitting here in this room, say, I did my part? Probably not yet. So we have an opportunity to do something by ourselves, and therefore, this initiative is also a platform for turning action, rather words into action. How will it work? The first thing that we have realized on this continent is ownership. ownership has always been a challenge. The second one is pooling of resources. We have a lot of Africans in the diaspora who want to give back, who want to make investments, but they don't know where do I start from. We have a lot of us in this room who have small resources, but if pooled together, we can actually be able to make a difference. Let me give a simple example. If 1 million Africans put together $1,000 each, and I believe 3/4 of the people in this room have smartphones, they are almost equivalent to $1,000. So if we put $1,000 each and you have 1 million people, that's $1 billion. $1 billion can do an energy project in Sierra Leone. $1 billion can invest in a battery manufacturing plant, even if we want to put it in DRC. $1 million can build a bridge. $1 billion can build a bridge. I look forward to when we are celebrating 2063 and Africans can say, that bridge, we did it. Not governments, not multilateral institutions, but each one of us contributing a little. So this initiative is going to be a subscription-based initiative. Now, it's going to be powered by technology. Technology is the easiest to do things now. We're going to use blockchain. And blockchain technology means when you subscribe, you'll be looking at your amount and we'll put up projects in different countries and invite people to finance the projects. So if you like to finance that mine in Uganda, you just instruct your account to deduct $100, $50, it goes into the pool so that we can actually raise money to finance projects. So the money we raise through subscriptions is not for consumption. It is to be used in projects. So the projects will have government designate some projects they're interested, which are transformational. We shall look to the private sector to see which projects are lucrative, and then we shall ask Africans to provide money and ownership to actually be able to achieve this. When money is involved, money is power. You can talk. In my communities, when people come together in a gathering, those without money, when you wake up to start speaking, they first tell you, sit down, let other people talk. So we want to say that we need to talk with some financial power. We also know that a lot of people want to come and influence these kinds of groups, so the subscription is going to be one vote, one voice, one single contribution, so that we don't have this imbalance or undue influence where some people are putting so much and they want to dictate. So the subscription is going to be $1,000 annually. So I believe that in this room we have about 100, at least, Africans. That's 100,000. This is how you get things started. To set this up, the African Mineral Strategy Group partnered with some private sector entities to come together so we can actually be able to develop the power behind the platform and also champion these efforts as a public and private partnership. The ceremony we are going to do now is going to be to sign an understanding, and before I invite the partners we have, allow me invite our first subscribers. You know, when you're a leader, leadership comes with responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dr. Dele Alake, a minister. They are going to be witnessing the signing. They are also our first subscribers. Her Excellency Monica, please join me. Dr. Julius Matai, please join me. Honorable Mulba, please join me. Honorable Musa, please join me. You can take the seats. They are going to be able to witness. I think there is a missing space, so let's see who is going to. Please have a seat. When we were moving around, we saw people with gold. So do we have this FG gold, or we want one of our gold sponsors to be able to join us? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome the managing partner of COA International, Mr. Suleiman Zakari, to come to the stage. COA International is the organizer of this event, this summit that you have, that we are all enjoying. Together, we are going to work on developing the Africans for Africa. May I invite the managing partner of Mortimos Metals, Tim. I would like just to say one thing before we take our seats to sign. If you look at the map on the logo of the Africans for Africa, you realize there is the hand. It means hard work. We have so much natural resources and minerals, but we need to put our hands, make our hands dirty. We are an agricultural continent. There is no way you can farm without getting your hands dirty. If we want to develop our continent, we must get our hands dirty. We can't do it by remote control. To achieve and that hard work to make sense, we must do it together. So that's why you're seeing the holding of the hands. If we do it together, we can unlock the opportunities and the potential that we have on our continent, hence the padlock. It has started unlocking, but we can do it much more better. We would like to thank Nigeria for renewed hope. The sun on the map represents renewed hope for Africa. Because as the sun goes down in the evening and it becomes dark, it rises in the morning. As our continent goes through troubled times, we arise in the morning. If you see those many dots, they represent the vast natural resources we have in every corner of Africa. So therefore, working hard, working together, unlocking the opportunities will lead us to a new Africa. But this has to be done by us as Africans for Africa. We'll now go to the signing part, and after which we will get just a comment from each of our ministers, and then we shall conclude this special announcement. Thank you very much. We've concluded the signing, and in my world, the action has begun. And I would like to give His Excellency Julius to say a few words of inspiration and commitment that we shall have 1 million Sierra Leoneans, both within Sierra Leone and in the diaspora, actually being able to champion and be part of this initiative. We know that a lot of Africans out there would like to give back to the continent. They would like to invest, but we need to create vehicles that can pull these resources together to be meaningful. Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. And I want to say good morning to everyone that's here. I think we've just witnessed something phenomenal. As I sat down there pensively listening to you, given the rationale for this initiative, Africans for Africa, I mean, you can either be emotional about it and be rational about it, or you can be rationally emotional or emotionally rational about it. Whichever permutation, we as Africans, I think with such initiative is a time we rediscover our somebodyness, our dignity and our pride in resolving our problems. And I am here to commit Sierra Leone to this initiative on behalf of His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio and the people of Sierra Leone, that will do this with passion, commitment, dedication, objectivity, transparency, accountability, to ensure we do the right things right. And I do believe such initiatives do go a long way. As we gather here as part of the African Mineral Strategy Group, the objectives for which it was established to ensure that we share knowledge, to ensure that we create investment opportunities, to ensure that we address technological advancements in resolving our problems, to ensure that we form strategic partnerships, and that we collaborate and build the capacity of our young men and young women to take their development into their hands. So I want to say thank you, and thanks to all those who are the pioneers of such an initiative, and those who are also witnessing it, that you will also go out there, inspire, motivate, and empower the Africans, and let's be the vuvuzela for our development. Thank you.
Excellency deserves a much bigger round of applause. We just took breakfast. Thank you, His Excellency Mulba.
Well, good morning, everyone. When I saw the name Africans for Africa, I was like, I thought it should have been the other way around, Africa for Africans. But then later on, I realized that no, perhaps it is Africans that are going to develop Africa. That is why it is Africans for Africa. So I think it is a very great initiative, and we should all give it our fullest support. And I'm also wondering if we are going to be the first subscribers, but I think we should support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Liberia is the oldest republic on this continent. So definitely you are the first subscriber, and then we'll go to the others. His Excellency Jime Omar Musa. Your Excellency, it's your turn. We had somebody summarize for us the translation. Okay, please.
Then go ahead, I will translate. Excellence. Vous pouvez dire un mot? Merci.
Merci, Excellence, mes collègues les ministres, mesdames et messieurs, distingués invités. Pour nous, on est vraiment très ravis.
We are very glad to witness this
à ce sommet,
at this summit,
l'investissement sur les ressources naturelles
et
énergie.
Le
Tchad est un pays de l'Afrique. Le Tchad est au cœur de l'Afrique.
Chad is in the middle
et
of
donc
Africa,
le Tchad sera toujours au cœur de toute initiative
We are
qui
happy
va
to
dans le
support all
sens
these initiatives
du développement durable de l'Afrique.
that support
Et donc,
sustainable
c'est la raison pour
development of
laquelle
Africa.
nous sommes enthousiastes d'être ici et nous sommes toujours engagés
We are
à
enthusiastic
soutenir l'initiative du groupe de stratégie minière africaine pour la prospérité de l'Afrique en général. Donc voilà ce que je tiens à dire et nous sommes toujours là debout ensemble et nous irons très loin. Nous allons marquer la présence de l'Afrique dans le concert des nations. Merci.
Thank you. And Chad is willing to develop and
You
assist.
summarize it a bit louder.
Okay. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very, very happy and glad to be part of this event and this summit. And as far as the Republic of Chad is concerned, we are helpful and ready at any time to support these initiatives that are geared towards the sustainable development of the mining and energy sectors in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Musa. Your Excellency Monica.
Your Excellencies, captains of the industry, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, do not despise the humble beginnings. Every big thing starts with a first step. And therefore, as we are saying that we need to turn our talk into action, this is it. And now we have the opportunity to contribute to our motherland, Africa. And therefore, I'm so excited about this. And I'm sure now we can proudly say we are waking up the giant so that we can start using our resources to the right way. And therefore, I would like to urge you, we have started, and therefore I would like to urge you to also follow suit so that we can work together. When I was coming here, I had just finished an engagement with Malawians in diaspora, and therefore this is now an opportunity that we are going to give to our brothers and sisters that are in diaspora so that they can also be able to be part of this. And therefore, let's take the opportunity and be able to contribute to our motherland, Africa. Thank you.
Great things started small. I was told that no matter how big a crocodile is, it was once an egg, right? Your Excellency Dr. Alake, your remarks.
Thank you very much, Moses. Your Excellencies, my colleagues, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the scenario that just took place here now, a few minutes ago, gives me some kind of nostalgic feeling. But you know, when you have nostalgia, it connotes something that is palatable, and you reminisce, you remember it. In this instance, it's both nostalgic and also quite reminiscent of a scenario that occurred in the 1880s, somewhere in Europe, when the European powers, or the powers that be at that time, gathered together somewhere in a room, secluded themselves, and brought out the map of Africa, brought out their pens, and started demarcation, artificial demarcation of Africa, regardless of the culture, of the various cultures, various religions, the various traditions, and the dynamics that welded the peoples of Africa together before the advent of Europeans. So Africa was carved out artificially without recourse to the peoples of Africa at the time. We had no choice. We were not even at the table. We were not represented when our destinies were carved out in the interest of the European powers. But today, we've turned full circle. Here on this table, the destiny of Africa and Africans has been brought back in our hands. So when the signing was going on, in my mind, I was traveling. You know, you can do some astral travel. So I was doing an astral traveling back to the 1880s, back to the table where they carved Africa. And I would have loved for those who carved Africa to be alive to come and see us today, regaining our destiny and regaining our composure, our confidence, and bringing our economy back into our hands. And so, I want to say categorically that we in Nigeria are in full support of this initiative. In any case, it is taking place here in Abuja in Nigeria, so we don't have a choice. I wish on behalf of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to congratulate the AMSG, which he did himself personally yesterday to the ministers when we paid him a courtesy call. But to congratulate this body for this bold initiative, bold and necessary initiative. Congratulate all the ministers here present and those not here. Congratulate the participants at this event, the organizers, and everybody involved in putting this very successful show together. And it has culminated in this very pivotal action that just took place. I want to commend this to every one of us in this hall and to those Africans beyond this hall to give this initiative their full cooperation. Because, like Moses said, like Monica said, a giant oak begins like a tiny seed. So when the tiny seed is sown, it grows into a giant oak. What we have done here today, in years to come, history will be kind to every one of us that has taken part in this venture. Thank you very much.
History will be kind to us. I would now like to invite all the VIPs who are here to join us for the photo, for the commemoration photo, to celebrate this momentous occasion. Let's also invite all the visiting delegations, senior government officials to come up here. And the form is very big. It can fit all people.
A round of applause for them as they go back to their seats. Thank you very much. Let's get back to our seats quickly so we can continue with the program of events, just so we can round off in good time. Thank you very much, His Excellency Moses Michael Ngadu, for that. Indeed, big things often have small beginnings. And it is good that we have started today, and AFNIS is the platform. Thank you very much. Please, we'd like everyone to take their seats. Ushers, please help us get a hall organized. We want those standing behind to please take their seats. Thank you. We're having a keynote address shortly, and I'm sure you want to listen attentively to it. We want you to be comfortable. That's why the seats are here. So please, those at the back, we'd like you to please take your seats. By the way, His Excellency Moses Ngadu came all the way from Uganda to attend this event. And you can see the great work that he's doing. I'm excited that he's in Nigeria. And like he mentioned, he was on NTA on Monday, and we interviewed him on Good Morning Nigeria. You know what happens when you have guests coming from other parts of the world? You're excited to meet them, and sometimes when they come, they bring souvenirs with them. Moses Ngadu has given me his phone, and I'm excited to keep it. Please, a round of applause for him. It's now time for a keynote address. We have with us now the Managing Director and CEO of Rural Electrification Agency. Ladies and gentlemen, I would need some details to be sure that it's yours before I hand it over to you. Can we have security, please? Because I have a phone. All right, thank you so much, ma'am. All right, so we have with us Abba Abubakar Aliyu. Please, a round of applause for him. I've been reliably informed that he didn't come late. He had to attend to very, very important pressing issues that would be beneficial to us as Nigerians. Please, a round of applause for him as he comes forward for his keynotes.
The Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to stand on an existing protocol that has already been established. Honorable Minister, I'm standing here just to speak a bit about the investment opportunities in the Nigerian renewable energy space. Nigeria as a country has vast opportunities in this line, in this area. And embarking on the renewable energy in the country is a strategic decision on the basis that the country has abundance of these renewable energy sources. We have the abundance of solar, we have the hydro, small, medium hydro, biomass, and so on. So apart from that, the country also has the biggest number of unelectrified Nigerians, unelectrified people in the entire world. And these people are sparsely populated. They are spread across the country. So the decision to embark on the investing in distributed renewable energy to provide these Nigerians with access to electricity is a strategic one. Oftentimes, countries speak about transition from the fossil fuel to renewable energy. In Nigeria, our decision to embark on the renewable energy is just a strategic way of finding an efficient and economic way of providing this Nigerian with access to electricity. If you look at the spread of the population of the country without access to electricity, you realize that most of them are residing in rural areas where they are sparsely populated. And if you look at the economics of extending the national grid to provide this population with electricity, the economics it's not doesn't look very good, in the sense that the cost of extended transmission grid, for example, from just a 1 kilometer transmission grid is about $1.5 million. And extending grid to far rural areas where these people, the rural people are taking this electricity in a very low quantity, does not make economic sense. So the best option for us is to embark on the distributed access, whereby we create a generation plant within these local communities and provide them with this electricity. Now, apart from that, also, recently the federal government of Nigeria signed an Electricity Act, which provides the state of the country with the opportunity to invest in both generation, transmission, and distribution. Now, this act has further decentralized the entire value chain of the electricity in the country. Initially, it was the generation and transmission was within the purview of just the federal government. But by the virtue of the new Electricity Act, it has decentralized it to the state, whereby the state can embark or enter into partnership for generation, transmission, and distribution. So there are a lot of strategic decisions around embarking on this distributed renewable energy in the country. The question now is what exactly the federal government of Nigeria is doing in ensuring crystallizing investment in these renewable sources, and at the same time also promoting private sector investment in this area. And I'm going to speak a bit on this area in what the federal government is doing. The first is a daring project that the federal government has just signed. The project is called DARES, and from the name of the project is so daring to the extent that it's the biggest public sector funded project in the entire world. A $750 million project purposely designed to crystallize private sector investment into this renewable space. This funding that the federal government has crystallized, working with the World Bank, is meant to provide capital subsidy and grant to private sector for this sector to come in, put in their investment into this renewable energy. Then the second aspect that the federal government is doing is what we call the RESCO model, Renewable Energy Service Company. And this is a model created by the Rural Electrification Agency, whereby we provide companies with opportunities to enhance, to have a utility scale portfolio of capacity that they are managing in providing this renewable energy access to Nigerians. The RESCO model provides an opportunity whereby companies can come into the country and bid for auction of large-scale utility capacities, be it 10 megawatt, 20 megawatt, for them to put in their money, bid, and also get the grant for the actualization of the project. We also have the mini grid regulation, often said one of the best regulation in the African continent. This mini grid regulation provides all the enabling factors that a private sector needed to now put in their investment into this renewable space. Then we also have the ambitious plan of putting in place the National Electrification Plan. This plan would provide whoever intends to invest in the renewable energy with the digital mapping of the country for the investor to see where are the unelectrified, underserved, unserved communities within the country. so that you can easily see the economic, the social, economic, and environmental factors within this community to help guide the investor to make an investment decision. This electrification plan will be launched sometime, anytime by the middle of next year. So in terms of what have been the outcome of the what we have done, these factors that we have put in place to crystallize investment. To date, in the country, we have over 160 functioning mini grids in the country, with a total capacity of over 400 megawatts. We also have deployed over 1.5 million solar home system across the country. We also intervene in critical sectors of the economy, specifically the education sector, where we provide tertiary institutions with hybrid mini-grid with renewable sources. In fact, one of it is here in Abuja, where we provided a 3 megawatt to University of Abuja, which would be commissioned anytime soon. We also provided a 12 megawatt in one of the states in the country called Borno State, where we provide the university, the teaching hospital, and a water treatment plant with renewable sources. And this is about 7 and 2 teaching hospitals around the country have been completed. And we have started embarking on another round of 9 universities and 1 teaching hospital that has been started. We also have seen the impact of crystallizing the investment by signing an agreement between the Rural Electrification Agency, NASENI, and a Chinese company called Shenzhen Lemi, which is about to establish a lithium battery assembly plant in Lekki in Lagos, which will be completed by the middle of next year as well. We also have seen the outcome of the Owando investment, whereby a 1.2 gigawatt solar panel assembly plant has been established by the Owando, which is in the process of being completed. We also have seen the unlocking of both the private sector and the local Nigerian banks' investment. To date, for example, the International Finance Corporation has earmarked $100 million for any investor that will invest, leveraging on the DES project, that will invest in the Nigerian renewable space. We also have seen a number of local Nigerian companies, banks, for example, the Stanbic IBTC, FCMB, committing a revolving fund that would mirror this grant agreement that any investor will sign with the Rural Electrification Agency for that investor to put in funding to build any mini grid within the country. So in conclusion, Honorable Ministers, there is a potential, huge potential opportunities in the country in the renewable energy, particularly solar, which is abundant. The irradiation level in the country is very good, it's very high, more especially in the deep northern part of the country. So those opportunities, and the federal government has been daring in crystallizing grants and subsidy for any investor that will embark in this area of investing in the renewable energy. So these opportunities are there, and any potential investor that wants more detail can reach out to the Rural Electrification Agency for further detail. I thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to mutually beneficial discussion in this renewable space. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Abba Abubakar Aliyu, Managing Director and CEO of Rural Electrification Agency, REA. Thank you for your keynote. It's now time for a ministerial keynote, and this will be delivered by the Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Doris Uzoka Anite, who is ably represented here this morning by Mrs. Gertrude Orji, the Director of Investment and Promotion. Please, a round of applause for her as she comes forward. And just to let you know that we have a panel session coming up after this keynote address, I would like Habib Dayola to get a panelist ready. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the Honorable Minister of Solid Minerals, Dr. Dele Alake, other foreign ministers present, heads of ministries, agencies, and parastatals, captains of industries, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm here on behalf of my Honorable Minister, Dr. Doris Uzoka Anyete, who is currently undertaking other official engagements, and I've asked that I extend her warm regards to this distinguished gathering and also to tender her apologies. And so I will read her ministerial keynote address. It is an honor to stand before you today at the 3rd African Natural Resource and Energy Investment Summit to discuss a matter of paramount importance to our nation's future and prosperity of our continent. Nigeria and Africa as a whole are blessed with abundant natural resources, from vast mineral reserves to fertile agricultural lands, and from renewable energy to rich biodiversity. Our natural wealth holds the key to unlocking unprecedented economic prosperity, uplifting our communities, and ushering in a new industrial era. Natural resources, when managed responsibly and sustainably, can be the driving force behind economic growth. In Nigeria, our oil and gas reserves contribute significantly to our GDP. However, our potential extends beyond hydrocarbons. By diversifying our resource-based economy, we mitigate risks associated with the dependency of a single sector. Nigeria has a strong history of natural resource development and exporting, long before the production of our oil reserves. In the 1970s, Nigeria was one of the world's largest exporters of tin, and the tin industry played a crucial role in the country's economy during that period, contributing significantly to export revenues and employment. The tin mines in Jos were particularly productive. Our tin exports were highly sought for in the global market, where we competed with other major tin-producing nations such as Malaysia, Indonesia, and Bolivia. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to inform you that under the visionary leadership of His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and my esteemed colleague at the Ministry of Solid Minerals, Dr. Dele Alake, our hope for a diversified export-driven mineral sector in the 1970s has been renewed. And we at the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment are encouraging further diversification and industrialization of our economy by harnessing our abundant natural resources through sustainable partnerships with local and global investors, some of whom I'm sure are in this very room. Our mineral wealth, including gold, copper, tin, lithium, and rare earth elements, offer opportunities for expanding mineral activities. As Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, I wish to invite the world to invest in Nigeria's mineral sector. However, I must encourage you to do so responsibly
and ensure that minerals are processed rather than exported in their raw form without value addition. I encourage investors to invest in the processing and refining of our abundant mineral resources, which can catalyze Nigerians' industrialization, create more jobs, and at the same time add significant value to our mineral resources, which will then be exported to generate foreign exchange for our countries, thus accelerating economic growth. Indeed, I am glad to see that investors are taking advantage of our processing and manufacturing policy for the mineral sector. Just 2 months ago, we celebrated a significant milestone with the launch of a 4,000-ton per day lithium processing plant in Nasarawa State, which is a testament to Nigerians' allure for investments. These investments underscores our reputation as an investment destination and our dedication to providing an enabling business environment. However, please note that we are not resting on our laurels. We are doing more to attract investments across all sectors of our economy, particularly the mineral sector. And we are also investing in the development of infrastructure to facilitate the movement of goods and lower the cost of production. We have also invested in the generation of geological data to de-risk investing in the natural resources sector. And we are conducting even more studies to identify bankable mining projects that the Ministry of Industry can invest into. So expect much more investments in our country in the coming months. Moreover, energy is a fundamental driver of industrialization, enabling increased production, technological advancement, economic growth, infrastructure development, improved living standard, and global competitiveness. Since becoming the Minister of Industry, I have had the opportunity of touring many industries, and I can tell you that energy is pivotal for revitalizing industries in Nigeria and Africa. I'm therefore pleased that the African Natural Resource and Energy Investment Summit provides Nigeria with an opportunity to work with our brothers and sisters in Africa to find solutions to the energy challenges hampering our accelerated development. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria is key to the energy security of Africa due to our substantial oil and gas reserves. Our gas and oil infrastructure, including refineries, pipelines, and export terminals, are crucial for the regional and global energy market. And we are therefore seeking to further collaborate and invest to continue playing a leadership role within the global energy markets and provide Africa with energy security. We are also part of the West African Power Pool, an initiative aimed at integrating the national power system of West African countries to ensure a stable and reliable electricity supply across the region. Electricity and energy are key to a stable and economic prosperity. And we in Nigeria continue to do our very best to support Africa and ensure peace and stability. I therefore wish to urge our African partners to continue supporting Nigeria, as together we will go far in addressing energy needs. Beyond oil and gas, Nigeria is also blessed with abundant sunlight, wind, and water resources. Under the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President, we are championing investments in renewable energy technologies, not only to address our energy needs, but also to position Nigeria as a leader in the global green economy. The vast fertile lands across the country, it's another natural resources Nigeria is blessed with, and we seek to develop in support of a thriving agricultural sector. By attracting investors that bring with them modernized farming, modern technologies, improved access to markets, and agro-processing industries, we can therefore enhance food security, reduce imports, and become a net exporter of agricultural products. I urge all investors here to look at the abundant opportunities available within our agricultural sector and invest in Nigeria. I assure you that you will always be comfortable and be confident that Nigeria is the destination. The Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment in 2023 developed and launched the first ever Nigeria investment policy and the trade policy of Nigeria. These two policy documents were approved by the Federal Executive Council to provide a comprehensive roadmap for boosting in Nigerians' domestic investment climate, facilitate macro stability, restore international confidence, and bolster the living standards of our citizens. Specifically, the trade policy of Nigeria addresses the prevailing challenges and promotes a comprehensive trade-enabling environment that brings Nigeria back to a sustainable path of economic growth and development. So, this is the right time to invest in Nigeria. We are also in the process of mapping out industrial clusters for targeted investments and industrial development. With the mining and steel industries, key parts of these studies, as we all know, are the iron and steel industry, which constitutes the backbone of modern industrial economies. To truly harness our natural resources, we must usher in a new industrial era characterized by innovation, sustainability, and inclusivity. As a country, we are committed to creating an enabling business environment and for innovations to thrive. We have implemented policies and initiatives aimed at attracting foreign direct investment, promoting local content, and enhancing the ease of doing business in Nigeria. I therefore urge all of you here to take advantage of the opportunities presented by this summit to network, collaborate, and explore investment potentials within our natural resources and energy sector. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, the future of Nigeria and Africa is bright. By harnessing our natural resources responsibly, we can fuel economic prosperity, uplift our communities, and usher in a new industrial area. Together, we can transform our natural wealth into catalysts for enduring development and shared prosperity. Thank you for listening.
That applause can be better, please, for the Honorable Minister of Trade, Industry and Investment, represented by Mrs. Gertrude Orji. Thank you so much. Indeed, our future can be brighter. And that's why we're gathered right here in this room to chat a way forward on how to make our future really bright. It's now time to have a panel discussion, and this panel discussion is on exploring opportunities and innovations in mining, energy, and infrastructure financing. This panel will be moderated by the partner, Energy Utilities and Resources, PwC. Please put your hands together for Habib Jayola as he steps forward. You need to pay rapt attention to this session because they will be identifying emerging investment opportunities at the intersection of mining, energy, and infrastructure sectors, as well as exploring innovative financing mechanisms tailored for sustainable development in mining, power, and oil and gas industries. Please, another round of applause for our moderator.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister for Solid Minerals, Dr. Dele Alake, other honorable ministers here present, members of the diplomatic corps, captains of industries, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for having me. My name once again is Habib Jayola. I'm a partner and public sector lead for the Energy Utilities and Resources for PwC. And I'm glad to be here today. So my session, like was said, is on exploring opportunities in mining, energy, and infrastructure financing. And based on the concept of this event, being a natural resource event, we can all see the need for linking these industries together for mining, energy, and infrastructure, and how these industries were able to really generate economic prosperity for all. So to join me and help me dissect this topic, I'll first of all call on Hajia Aisha Rimi, the CEO and Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, who is ably represented here by Hajia Ghana Wakil, the Director, Investment Relations, to please come on stage to give us the opening remarks. A round of applause for her once again, please. Hajia will be giving us the opening remark to kick off the session, and then subsequently I'll call on my panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Distinguished dignitaries, let me first start by tendering our apology for the absence of Aisha Rimi. We were hoping that she will come in. Even now, if she walks in, I will just step aside for her. Meanwhile, I will take your permission to stand in for her. And first of all, I would like to congratulate AFNIS 2024 for the very apt topic for this Investor Summit that is focusing on energy, mining, and infrastructure jointly. These are the critical sectors that are highly interrelated and interdependent. Failure or success of one impacts or impedes on the other. These are also the sectors that constitute the topmost priority sectors of government, as contained in the National Development Plan, the current National Development Plan, as the key drivers of the economy. They are also the sectors that are the key facilitators of President Tinubu's economic agenda, particularly on the pillars of growing the economy and creating the learning environment. The renewed hope agenda of President Tinubu, in the words of the Vice President, is aimed at repositioning Nigeria as a prime global investment destination. And by extension, the NIPC, being the gateway of the Nigerian economy, we also focus on these critical areas to attract foreign direct investment and also stimulate domestic investment in them. Like I said, excellent choice of topic, as tackling these topics jointly is an innovation. It's an innovative solution. We've heard so much about innovative solution these 2 days. The Vice President mentioned it, the Minister who is seated here mentioned it, my Minister just spoke also mentioned it, talking about the enabling environment and providing support services. So I'm sure that this panel discussion is also another, it presents another innovative solution to issues in the sector. So while the discussants will talk about financing and innovations, I'll just give a big, brief background on the areas and their investment opportunities and possibly incentives. In the area of solid minerals, Africa, we know, is the mineral resource base of the world. And Nigeria is richly endowed with a variety of these mineral deposits that are largely untapped. The country has identified 44 exploitable minerals in proven commercial quantities across the 36 states and Abuja. The potentials, therefore, are tremendous, and as a policy direction of government, 7 of these strategic minerals, namely coal, bitumen, iron ore, gold, barytes, lead and zinc, as well as the latest bride in town, lithium, have been pinned down as for priority development. Nigeria's mineral deposits are highly underdeveloped, we know, and currently contributes less than 1% to the GDP. Government's target by 2025 is to achieve at least 3% of contributing to the GDP. It is expected that it is the private sector investments in these areas that will achieve this target. And I'm sure with companies like, more of the companies like Segilola and the rest of them that sponsor this event, if we have few more of them, we will not only achieve the target, but also surpass them. In the area of energy, oil and gas is the major source of energy to power the mining sector. And Nigeria is, of course, the largest oil producer in Africa and has the 10th largest proven gas reserves in the world. Opportunities here are plenty, both in the upstream, midstream, downstream, every stream. There are opportunities for investment in those sectors, from exploration, exploitation, refining, and what have you. I was going to talk about renewable energy, but the MD of REA has extensively discussed on that. I will only add that Nigeria is one of the fastest growing market for solar. And you can see that in the streets of Abuja, not to talk of going towards the northeast. Those are areas of investment opportunity. In infrastructure, say that the basic infrastructure of roads, railways, highways, public transportation, water, seaport infrastructure are grossly inadequate in Nigeria. As such, there is a huge investment opportunity in the sector. Systems and services can range from hardcore infrastructure requirements, such as power supply, mining equipments, to soft infrastructure requirements, like logistics support, research and development, training for the mining sector employees, marketing, etc. At the end, investors are urged to take advantage of these opportunities. Meanwhile, the NIPC, which is the lead investment promotion agency of the country, is positioned to not only receive investors, not only attract investors, but to receive them and facilitate their entry seamlessly, and also encourage expansion and diversification to retain them in the country through our aftercare services and policy advocacy roles. We work closely, we work in synergy with all the MDAs and relevant stakeholders in the ecosystem to ensure actualization of investors' aspirations in the country. In conclusion, before I conclude, let me just mention a few of the incentives that are available for the benefit of our foreign investors. We know that there's guarantee for their investment in the country. They can own 100% of their businesses without the need for partnership with other businesses as obtains in other climes. There's a guarantee against expropriation of their businesses by any level of government. Nigeria has signed bilateral treaties with several countries to boost the confidence of investors that are coming from those countries. And there are sector-specific investors, which is too numerous for us to list here, but we have them in our literature, through our website. I think our officers are here with a flash drive that contains such information, including the investment opportunities, specific investment opportunities that are propriety of various agencies and individuals, and they are looking for investment in those aspects. If you meet any of us, I think we'll give you information on specific investment opportunities. In conclusion, therefore, I would like to thank the organizer of the summit, especially the Honorable Minister, Ministry of Solid Minerals Development, for identifying with the NIPC's mandate and collaborating with the Commission to ensure success of this summit and these sectors. Thank you.
Another round of applause for her, please. Thank you so much. So we go straight to the panel conversations, and I will call on my esteemed panelists to help me dissect this topic. Once again, the topic is exploring opportunities in mining, energy, and infrastructure financing. The first panelist I would call is Hajia Fatima Shinkafi, the CEO and Executive Secretary of the Solid Minerals Development Fund. A round of applause for Hajia. Thank you, Hajia. You can take from the second space. Thank you very much, Hajia. And then I will also call on Osam Iyahe, the Senior Director, Natural Resources, Africa Finance Corporation. Is Mr. Osam Iyahe here? Okay, not so. All right. So I'll call on Pius Osiriame Anyado, the Deputy Head, NIF, Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority. A round of applause for him. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. And in quick succession as well, I will call on Chris Omo Osagie, the CFO, Thor Explorations Limited, to join us on stage, please. Thank you so much for joining us as well. And then I will call on Nicola Asgil, the Vice President, Boxmoor Hills and FG Gold Limited. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So I have 3 panelists, and I think that will do. Once again, we get into the technical conversation. So a round of applause for my panelists once again. So with a bit of introduction, this topic is quite apt because it helps us to dissect the theme of this event and the need for Africa, and I'm sure we all heard this, Africans for Africa. This concept is quite strong, and while we dissect and understand that concept, we also have to understand that there has to be synergy across industries, because the mining sector cannot develop if the energy sector is not leveraging it, if we do not backward integrate into other infrastructure also for Africa, or else we'll just be dealing with exporting our resources. So how do we deal with the resources being on ground to ensure that, you know, we backward integrate? Now the key question is, how do we finance this this linkage. How do we harness this linkage? And I'm glad to have a panel which consists of financiers. In addition, also, we have investors, contractors, people who are also in the industry to help me dissect the topic. So first of all, I'll call on Hajia Fatima Shinkafi. Hajia, you are very much experienced when it comes to private sector investment, investment tools, conversation with companies in terms of what is required for a company, an entity, to be attractive for investment. And in answering this question, Hajia, I would ask if you can link up that with the need to connect the sectors and the need for an investor to be able to attract finance, connecting these critical sectors of mining, energy, and infrastructure. Over to you, Hajia.
Thank you for the most difficult and first question. So these sectors are linked already. You can't talk about mining without talking about energy, and you can't talk about production from the mines without talking about movement of the products that you've mined to the ports for exports or to where you want to add value to them. Sometimes you don't build the processing plant right next to the mine. It could be elsewhere. So infrastructure is in the way of roads or railroads if it's bulk material. So to link these critical elements, you must have a defined resource. That's the beginning of the story, I think. I think if it's related to mining, if we're talking about extractives, you must start at the point of knowing the value of the resource that you have to make a business case and to project what can come out of that mine. In some cases, one single mine can justify infrastructure if you have the energy source that is cost effective. So your cost of production is going to come into play eventually. A quick example that comes to mind, sometimes we can get very academic in these things, but an example brings everything to life. There's a company in Brazil, Vale, that built a railroad from their iron ore mine to the port. The Carajás Railroad is about 600 kilometers long. And they built it in 1985, and it boosted production, but they first had to know the in-situ value of iron ore that was there. Incidentally, it has nickel and pellets and other byproducts as well. That railroad was built in 1985 by a private company, not by the Brazilian state. And they went ahead to build such a major infrastructure because they had the in-situ value of iron ore. They could project and telescope into the future to know what the price will be over a certain number of years. In 2021, Vale's net profits was $21 billion, $24 billion. Yes, there were issues along the railroad, environmental issues, and other things like that, because in those days, SG considerations were not so pronounced as now. But over time, Vale engaged the communities. Apart from iron ore, what you get from a railroad, unlike when it's gas or oil exploration where you have pipelines, it's shared infrastructure. A railroad will not only carry iron ore, it will carry other things as well, making a multiplier effect for that community and environment. And the communities along the railroad will all benefit in an economic way. All these things have a multiplier effect and makes it worth investing in such a critical infrastructure. With the vast landscape in Africa, for example, Nigeria, we have such big spaces. Road transportation is not always ideal. There are deposits that justify building that infrastructure, and that is how you link
infrastructure to your mind. The beginning of it has to be exploration, in situ value, and reserve delineation and evaluation. And then you have mineral economists, you have other experts who put a cost to the infrastructure. And when you do find that resource, energy, the energy mix, sustainability is on the map these days. We're looking at a gas input from the NNPC, and this government is focusing in particular on gas for energy. These are one of the solutions you can have for future type of mines.
Thank you so much, Hajia. Thank you for that. A round of applause for Hajia. So it's quite key if you listen to what Hajia really explained to us, that there's a lot into being attractive to finance and being able to tick that box across board. But then, you know, we ask ourselves, some of the finance that has gone out, how have that really driven development? And what are those risks from a financial standpoint that we see? Because not just now that we're giving finances out, but how do we then, you know, guard against the return to then come? So what are the risks? So I will ask this question to Mr. Pius in terms of what your thoughts are. What are those risks that you see from investment, and why do you think that investors are actually not wanting to put their monies to finance these projects?
Thank you very much. The risk we see, they are of two types. The one that is intrinsic in the business itself, the mining business, and one that is external to it. External, I would say the market. Is the product that they're bringing to the market, is it acceptable? To what quality is that product? Aja, for example, has this PAGB program that is going on in our ministry, and we are invested in one of the funds. And we see the problem they had was the fact that Nigerian gold was not acceptable at international level. So what did our ministry do? Got money, tried to bring about refinement of the gold so that this gold can be sold at the international level. So the quality of the product is one, which is the market acceptability. Then secondly is what are the processes associated with the companies themselves as they explore mine this raw materials. So when you look at that aspect, that is where we look at beneficiation also. Are you going to just mine and just send your ore out without processing it? That's another thing. Capacity building, do they have it? Then cost to completion or cost of projects is another risk associated with these various companies. Some of them, they start off, they have the required permits, but they've not done feasibility studies. They've not done a genuine business plan that will see from end to end of the business. So when you have these things not properly done, it brings about a risk of you not being able to go to the market or sustain your stay in the market. And when you have these things, the investors are not, the project is not bankable, so the investors are not looking at you.
I see.
So you need to, one, focus the products you are bringing to the market or the ores you are bringing to the market, how refined are they, to what standard are they, and in situ looking at yourself also, how will you be able to sustain yourself all through the period in the market to make sure that at every point in time your product is in the market and you are also in the market. With this, your cash flow is bankable.
Yeah.
Your business is bankable. Then investors will take a look at you, and those risks are mitigated.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for him as well. I think the actual miners and contractors may say, from your perspective as financiers, it's easy to say these things. But then you may want to ask, let's really hear from the actual nature of what's on ground, right? So, Mr. Chris, when you really look at the terrain of doing business in Nigeria, and how it is to get finance and the kind of challenges with turning that finance around to be able to meet requirements of financiers. From your perspective, could you give us the reality and how this keys into the ease of getting finance and being able to run a business, mining operations in Nigeria?
Avi, thank you very much. Again, good afternoon all. Financing a large infrastructure project, such as a mining project, is incredibly difficult. To do that in Nigeria is doubly incredibly difficult if you were to go there. And it's not a case of the fact that these projects are may not be viable. Pius talked about bankable feasibility studies, right? A lot of the miners that we have, a lot of businesses in Nigeria, they may not necessarily have a clear path or a clear view of what to present to financiers that will make them buy the vision. Let me call it that, right? Because the miners and the business sites, they know what they want to do. They've seen it, right? They have the vision. They believe that they are going to achieve X. But what do they need to put together to be able to convince these financiers to buy into their vision? Pius talked about a bankable feasibility study. What other processes do we need to get together? Now, mining projects and exploration projects, they are very complex, and the rate of success is quite low. Yeah. So if I'm coming to a banker and say, please give me $2 million, I've found some gold somewhere, I believe that there is X amount of ounces there, I'm going to go and drill it, I'm going to mine it, I'm going to process it, I'm going to export it, and I'm going to get this amount of money. Of course, you put together your various documents, your cash flow forecast, and the rest of it. But again, the technical feasibility that needs to be done to at least give the financier some clarity
or comfort,
that this can actually be achieved. Again, it needs to go in. So I'd say from that side, yeah, the businesses, they need to do some work in being able to sell that vision. That's one. Now, even when they've sold the vision, right, the financiers, the structure, the traditional structure of our financiers in Nigeria is, okay, you've said all of this, but what security do I have? Right? And that's the traditional financing. Haja Fatima is a little bit more sophisticated, so she will appreciate some of these challenges that our miners have and be able to provide instruments, right, that would still address the risk and also present them with the funds and defend Haja's fund from the potential of actually losing that investment. But of course, from our traditional banks in Nigeria, they don't really have that expertise in-house. It is being developed gradually, it is being developed, and then there are a lot of instruments that we can actually bring to bear to say, okay, you know what, we can be innovative in the way we provide the finance that will also mitigate the risk, right, at one end, and also give you an opportunity, to enjoy the upside, right, to almost, not say limitless, but as far as your organization can either sell or can go. So there are various components to balance, one from the miner side to present and be able to sell the vision a little bit better, the financiers to also provide some innovative instruments, right, that would not necessarily focus too much on where is the security, right? And of course, with that, we should be able to come to some sort of middle ground and progress the sector.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. A round of applause for him as well. So from your perspective, the reality of the situation comes with what we see locally and the ability for people who take investments across to be able to turn it around. But I'll stay with you briefly again. In terms of what is in Nigeria, what we have, or even within the African continent, do you think there's some policies that may need to further improve to maybe enhance private sector leverage towards being able to take finance and turn it around? If you really look at what we've explained today, we're not looking at it from one sector alone. We say mining, but the value chain is also there, energy, infrastructure. So what is being mined, there should be a market for it, either in energy or infrastructure. The MDC of REA came today and we heard all what is being done, links these sectors together. So why then is it not so easy to turn it around is there something else which needs to go beyond just financiers being available?
Yeah, it's a bit more than that, right? Availability of finance is key. I'd say some security with regards to being able to do business is also another very important aspect. And when I say security and able to do business, when you recognize players who are serious players, they are engaged, they have various challenges that they are dealing with, whether they are regulatory challenges or even infrastructural or just challenges with regards to operational challenges for them. The support in being, let me mind my word, being sympathetic towards their plight, right, is also quite important. I don't want to go back to Segilola again, but let me go back to Segilola.
Like the minister said, the reality percentage has been increased.
Let me go back to Segilola. I think I mentioned that, of course, we are the first to test some of these policies that are in place. So when we test the policies and then we see how the policies actually work in practical terms, and we recognize that, okay, the initial view of how these policies work may not necessarily be what we see on ground. How do we sort of like go around that and say, okay, how do we navigate through it? Say, okay, maybe the policy was written in this way, but in practice, it may have to be altered a little bit, right? So that's the sympathetic component I'm talking about in supporting us, miners, other infrastructure developers. It's not only mining, the power sector as well. There are people who are building power plants now who are also getting across with these little issues. I think we've just recently, it's not a very popular thing, but we've just recently for power, how do you say, we've opened up the rating, right? So of course the power rates have gone up because they've sort of like opened up that aspect of it. So again, it's that sympathetic element in recognizing that businesses do need some support and providing that.
Okay, thank you so much once again. I think you've hit an area which I would like Haji Ashinkafi to maybe speak to briefly around what then could be that synergy between government, private sector that could work better, especially in terms of communicating these matters across board. In your view, how do we see that synergy between government and private sector, especially around finance, and what you think would work?
Thank you, Habib. So constant stakeholder engagement, disseminating policy incentives and information, not just on paper, but the ones that are actually working.
Yeah.
The emergent stages that we're in the mining space in Nigeria, when I say emergent stages, where it's not at the same point at which oil and gas, for example,
Absolutely.
is at. You need to de-risk the sector for private sector, for FDI, for foreigners to bring investment in. And concessionary funding, banks are in the business of making money. They have to report to their shareholders.
Yep.
Sympathy doesn't come into the equation. They have no developmental agenda. It's about profits. So DFIs are better suited in the likes of AFDB, in the likes of AFC, and government can partner with those who are less risk averse and are willing to take that leap more than the commercial banks. Commercial banks have low appraisal capacity for mining projects because they are not interested. The risks are high. Exploration is very risky. You either find what you're looking for or you don't. A bank will not, and you should not expect even for a bank to engage in that type of risk-taking. But in the emergent stages, where government can come in and communicate and partner with the private sector is, for example, guaranteeing a bank for low concessionary, long-term, patient capital. Mining needs 10 years, 5 years capital. Our banks are risk averse to that. They want to finance you for 6 months to import spare parts. They don't want to give you money to go and dig for something that even if it's there, it's not their business to bring it out as collateral. So you will find that banks are funding the Boas, the Dangotes, not from their mining projects, but other streams of income. They will fund Dangote because he has cement income, he has flour income, he has sugar income, and those cash flows guarantee the loans, not the mining project. So banks are not, should not be expected to fund exploration. We didn't do that in oil. At the beginning, we had the government funding the initial data that we used for oil exploration, and the Mobils and Shells and Chevrons all came in based on the attractiveness of that data. Government has to de-risk that emergent stage and make it attractive for others to then share that risk as we move on. In terms of policy, lawmakers are constantly looking at how to improve the laws and the policies for regulation to improve the environment. And at the moment, there's that type of synergy between the House of Assembly and the executives.
Thank you so much, Hadia. I think that really speaks to that area of collaboration. Your point, very apt around synergy and interaction between those two areas. I think, Mr. Pius, I would like to also get your view on the same matter. How do you think the government and the private sector would be able to, link up to be able to ensure that private sector and investment, returns come through? So maybe any other thoughts outside of what Haji has spoken about?
First of all, we have to look at the capacity of the players in the industry. How can you help? He spoke about being sympathetic. She spoke about coming together, bringing policies. So it's not only finance that's the issue there. When I was speaking the first time, I mentioned about manual process of mining. So they need to come up with institutions that are able to buy equipment, lease this equipment, depending on the type of lease that they want to create, that will help miners get this equipment, mine and return back and pay for the service. That's one way we can do that. And that is for us to write policies that are friendly in that nature. Because I also spoke about banks not being able to, commercial banks not having the depth to finance these miners. It's not that they don't, to appraise them. It's the fact that the environment does not allow their capital to be patient enough. So the regulators, they don't allow them to be patient enough. In NSI, yes, we are not a bank. So our capital is a bit patient.
It's quite patient.
It's quite patient. So we can do 10, 15, 20 years.
Reality of the mining life cycle is that it requires patient capital.
Yes, so, but if you have some other entities that can help provide the machineries that needs to be used for mining, then you can find out that what the miners need themselves is not what they use to buy the equipment, but just lease this equipment and go and mine. I also spoke about you can get there, you find. You can get there, you don't find. Sometimes you get there, what you find is not even enough for you to pay the lease.
Yeah.
So we need to put some things in place whereby if it's insurance, the government needs to pay for that if possible. But that's where private sector also comes in. And there are alternatives to funding, not only banks. They can go to private equity firms. They can go to venture capital firms that are skewed or are biased towards this type of business.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. A round of applause for my panelists. I think this topic is quite wide, and unfortunately, time will not allow us to really go further. I just have 2 minutes to wrap up. But I would like to take one question from the audience. If we have questions, okay, yes, that's the first hand I see. Do we have a mic? Unfortunately, I can't take 2 questions because of time. I know I'm holding you back between you and lunch, and it's a very difficult thing to do. So I will take the question with the gentleman in the.
We'd like you to please step forward.
Just one question before lunch.
I'm right in front of you. Your name and your organization. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Abdul Abiola, A2 Energy. We are focused on harnessing battery metals to drive economic development and human capital. My question is for Hajia Fatima. As you're aware, the mining sector, we have to de-risk it. We have a project in Kwara State presently going, and we have sank approximately $250,000 into that project. However, for us to meet and align with the requirements of PwC in partnership with SMDF, we have to arrive at pre-economic assessment, PEA. But that's gonna cost us close to $3 million. Are the governments putting together anything to simplify the policy, or how do we de-risk this project? We have potential FDIs, foreign investors that's ready to come on board, but we need to de-risk the project first. As I mentioned, we've put $250,000 into the project already, and we need the government support. So is there a simpler way or a solution for us to be able to move forward? Thank you.
Thank you. I was dreading that the question would be for me. Alas. So, funding does not have a bottomless pit. We have to have a way of sequestering and layering and classifying who we fund. And there has to be a starting point. If you're in a mining project, I think you're talking not about PwC, you're talking about the AFC and SMDF project development facility, where Wardell Armstrong as well as PwC are working with both organizations to do the evaluations and the appraisals, the financial appraisals. We have the technical side of it with Wardell Armstrong, along with all our business analysts as well. So, because I don't want to be attacked for pre-selecting friends, family, and cousins, a transparent process has been put together to decide which projects are funded. There's limited resources to fund these projects, and there's a plethora of applications and projects. So it's a project development facility already. So it's for greenfield exploration. All we're asking for is a minimum work level to help us appraise and decide if you're ready for the next phase of funding. And perhaps out of 100 projects, 10 might qualify for that next level of funding, and you have to meet that minimum requirement. If the minimum requirement is $2 million, I think Segilola here achieved $70 million out of about 100 from AFC. Only one of the few organizations that fund mining on the African continent is AFC. And I know that they've done over $1 billion in funding so far. To select and to decide which projects, we have to have a level playing field, we have to be equitable, and if there is a minimum requirement for you to have spent maybe $1 million, that's the type of funding that you must put to get it to the level where you then come to greenfield exploration. I'm not talking about brownfield. Greenfield is risky. So already there's a high dose of risk that the AFC, that the SMDF is taking, and we have to draw a line somewhere for this risk. If your project is at the point where our risk analysis says you have not brought enough in terms of information, it's not a personal decision. It follows a criteria where we tick boxes, and there are people that are successful. And it's not, please help me, ma. It's about what qualifies for it. A lot of these projects are viable, but it can't be by word of mouth. We must have empirical evidence and proof as a financier to see that we're not risking Nigerians' money because someone else is waiting for you to pay it back so that they have a chance for that fund.
Thank you so much, Haji. A round of applause for her. And a very sounding round of applause for my panel. I think they've been able to dissect the topic really well. Thank you so much once again, and we thank you so much for obliging this panel. And over to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Group photograph, please. A round of applause for this panelist. They have done justice to this topic. Hajia Fatima Shikamfi, Osami Ahen, Kresoma Osage. Of course, we do sincerely appreciate you. By the way, Hajia Fatima Shikamfi, I will come and say, please help me, ma. All right. Please, a round of applause for them as they step down. That applause can be better. It could be conditioned for lunch, so can it be much better? All right. By the way, lunch would wait a bit. Rest assured it's going to come, and it will be delicious. So please stay with us. Now we're going to have a keynote, and this will be delivered by the CEO of Excredite Consulting Limited, but he's been represented here by Osefa Anegbe, an energy lawyer. He's going to talk to us about exploration of dynamics, benefits, and transformative potential in effective PPPs. Please, a round of applause for Osefa Anegbe. He is representing Eyo Ekpo, the CEO of Excredite Consulting Limited. Is he here? All right, we may not be able to wait for him, so we'll move to the next item on the agenda, and that is sustainable development of REEs in Nigeria, Nigeria's mineral potential for renewable energy technologies. And this will be done by the President, Geological Society of Nigeria. Please, a round of applause for, all right, Osefa Anegbe, I'm sure. Oh, thank you so much. President, Geological Society of Africa, Professor Olugbenga Okunlola. Please, a round of applause for him. He's going to be making a presentation. Thank you very much, Prof.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please permit me to stand on existing protocols, please. I want to appreciate the organizers of this very crucial program for the kind invitation. To talk on the REEs. Is the presentation ready now? Technical? Oh, thank you. So, sustainable development of rare earth elements in Nigeria, Nigeria's mineral potentials for renewable energy technologies. But this is the main background to the whole discussion, the geological map of Nigeria. All the colors there shows different rock types, and each mineral will follow the rock type in which it has to occur in. And of course, this is the whole gamut of the richness of the mineral deposits that you have in Nigeria. And it's so much that on the right side, you may not even be able to read it, and all those dots shows occurrences. I'm going to focus more on REEs. It's been regarded that you have this criticality index globally. What are those critical minerals, especially for the green energy? Of course, what is critical to us in Africa may not even be critical to them in Europe, but universally, we're looking at some important minerals that will help to drive the green energy revolution. That is here already. We cannot prevent that. It's here. The technology is here. It is for now, and it's for the future. And REEs are going to play a critical role. What are REEs? Maybe I'll just explain a little bit. Rare earth elements. If you look at this slide, it shows that we have materials that are critical for transition to low carbon economy. These elements on the right side here, on the left side here, shows those elements that will be needed for these green energies. For example, bioenergy, wind power, solar photovoltaic cells, electric vehicles, and all that. And these REEs like dysprosium, neodymium, praseodymium, and all that are very, very critical. So they are very important minerals for the green revolution, for the new industrial revolution that is here with us. This is the trend that we're going to have again till 2030. It's going to increase. This is a projected annual global electric vehicle sales from now till about 2040. We're going to have it in millions. More than 70 million is increasing, and it's increasing astronomically. Now, if we're going to have an 100% EV world, we're going to see that the rare earths will still need, between now and the foreseeable future, 655% of what we have now. So we have to multiply by 655% to be able to supply materials for manufacture of batteries and all that we need for the EV world if we're going to have a 100% EV world. So it's going to still be in critical demand. What are these REEs? The group of 17 chemical elements, they occur together. You can see the group consists of, I mentioned them, yttrium and so on, lanthanide elements. I don't want to be too technical, but these are the elements. Cerium, praseodymium, and so on. And they are divided sometimes into heavy and the low rare earths, light rare earths. We can see them, the orange elements there. Okay, so they have specific properties that make them to be useful. Low emissions for those in construction, low emissions, low energy consumption, improved efficiency, high performance, small size, speed, durability, and so on. So these are their uses again. We move forward. these are the different main applications and the demand drivers. It's huge. These materials, magnets, metal hydride batteries, phosphors, cracking catalysts, polishing powders, and so on, are going to be so much in demand globally. Automotive, wind turbines, computers, mobile phones, players, and so on, LCDs, PDPs, not the party, LEDs, petroleum production, and so on and so forth. So they are very critical. And Africa must begin to see how to harness this deposit. Now we're talking about the lithium minerals. That's another group. Spodumene, petalite, lepidolite, and so on. But the REEs also constitute a group that is going to be so critical for the world transition energy production. The uses continues, and the demand will continue to rise. These are the primary industries is going to rise. Between now and 2050, these REEs that are going to be needed, especially when we're for wind and solar panels. And that, we've talked about solar energy a lot today. The world, especially Africa, Nigeria, we're going solar. Africa, we have the energy, but we must use some of these to construct the panels, to construct the critical components that are needed, and the demand is also going to rise. So we must begin to look for it. The current trade imbalance and movement of REEs does not favor Africa at all. We can see vast movement from across, just flowing across Africa. China down to USA, from there to Japan, massive movements, but all flying across Africa. Maybe now in the southern parts of Africa, we're having some productions of REEs, but the other aspects, major aspects of Africa are still very deficient, and it's not because we don't have it. So we must also have a holistic plan for the development of our REEs in Africa. So again, these are some of the projects in Africa that are going on now for African REE projects, especially in the eastern parts of Africa and the southern parts of Africa. Areas like the Mrima Hill, Wigu Hill, those are in Kenya, Lovedale in Zimbabwe, and so on. And those are the ones in yellow. The ones in yellow are those that are already in exploration, and those ones that are red are just still in research. But going to development stage, we have extremely very few that are going into development and production stage in Africa. So I don't also want to be technical, but so do Africa have the geology that is the main host that could produce or allow for the occurrence of these REEs? Yes. And we could see some of the REEs that we have in Africa, the Kakankunde, Songwe, Wuga Hill, and all that, are mostly hosted by carbonatites. And I want us to note this very well, carbonatites. What does this mean, carbonatites? What does this mean? It means countries that have this host rock are those ones that are going to be having a lot more potential for the REEs. That does not preclude that others who don't have this occurrence of carbonatites, which are mostly what we call in geology cratons, West African craton, the East African craton, Zimbabwean craton, the South African craton. Those areas are going to be critical for occurrence of these REEs. But again, countries that don't have it does not mean that they can also look for alternatives. And that's where I come now to the Nigerian case. I decided to travel global, Africa, and then coming back home to Nigeria. We don't have carbonatites in Nigeria. The geology then does not support maybe a huge occurrence of carbonatites because of our geology. We are not in the craton, what we call the West African craton or the East African craton. We're in what we call the mobile belts. So does it then mean that if we don't have the carbonatites in Nigeria, we don't have potentials for RE? No. Some of the researches that we have done, I'm going to just present some of the few results here, shows that these REEs can also occur within what we call alkaline rocks. Cyanides, some feldspars, some pegmatites, and some other phosphates, and even coal. Now, this represents the pegmatite zones that you have in Nigeria. Some recent studies have shown that areas around the Jos complex, between the basement complex and the Jos complex, that's just between Kano, Abuja axis, we host some prominent REE deposit. It may not be as rich as the one we have in the Mrima Hill. It may not be the ones as rich as we have within the Lovedale deposits in Zimbabwe, but there are also potentials for us to look at. The next one are our phosphates. We have quite some huge belts of phosphates, especially in the Sokoto Basin, the Lumede Basin, within the northwestern part of Nigeria. And we can see that trend, especially the middle point between Kebbi State and Zamfara State. Some of our phosphates have been known to also host, because of the appetite, to host some REs. Now, this is a trend that is being explored now. We need to now get back and get to explore for some of these REs within our phosphates. We have a long belt of these phosphates in the northwestern part of Nigeria, and not only that, also in the southwestern part of Nigeria around the Dahomey basins. Some of the analyses that we're having now are almost as comparable as to those ones that are still producing global low-scale REEs. So they could be low-hanging fruits. They may not be so heavy in terms of costly in terms of trying to separate them, because we're not having them within strict igneous complexes. We can have some low level of beneficiation, low-cost beneficiation, which may also turn out to be some kind of advantage. And then these, for example, the one around Ojaodon, maybe in Ogun State, around Ogun State, they occur as nodules, and some of the REEs that are some of the REs that have been analyzed, especially the light REs within this Ojaodon prospect and the ones around the Shoshone area, shows that we can also have some potentials in Nigeria. And then we also looked at some of our alkaline rocks, like cyanides, like chanokites, and we did these studies, carried out this study with some of my colleagues, and looked at down southwestern Nigeria. Was published in one of these foreign top journals, and then the results show that we also have some kind of possible potentials within our cyanides and our chanokites. The cyanide rocks and the chanokite rocks occur widely, not only in the southwestern parts of Nigeria, but also in the north-central parts of Nigeria, especially what we call the basement complex. It's a long, continuous, more than 1,500 belt and almost 1,500 wide. It doesn't mean that everywhere is chanokite or cyanides, but we can map those cyanides, which is said to have been neglected. It's just like our pegmatites. We didn't start looking at our pegmatites seriously until 20 years ago, when there was a boom of the rare metals tantalite and niobium, and now the boom of lithium minerals. Now everybody is looking for pegmatites, and virtually every pegmatite vein, whether productive or not in Nigeria, is now being covered. So maybe we need to now, for REs, shift our focus to look at cyanides and chanokites, because they offer some potentials that have been tested. So these are some of the studies that were done to separate out those minerals within those chanokites that could be REE bearing, the bestnesites and so on. And our results showed, comparing with all others in the world, shows that, I will show the comparison because of time. The total REEs volume that we have shows for the ones around the cyanides in Nigeria, about 674.85 ppm. Well, it may not be as high as the one that they have in northern China, which is about 14,000 ppm, but it also ranges with the one that is being produced in Minas Gerais in Brazil, and the ones that are being produced in India. So the occurrences of some of the cyanides and the cyanokites are also almost as, productive. We can be almost as productive as those ones we have in those areas. So there is potential. Another thing is we also looked at the one for the cyanokites, and if you look at the total REs for the cyanokites, we're having almost up to 801.73 ppm. It's comparable to the ones we have maybe around the south of Norway that is producing. So we can begin to look at this properly. Now, also in coal, there is a proverb in my place that you look for what is lost anywhere. So the whole world is looking for these critical minerals in as many rocks as they can find it. And there is now a lot of good research showing that you have some REEs that could be productive within coal. Now Nigeria has a lot of quite some substantial coal in different districts, and especially in the central confluence area, the Anambra Basin, down even to the southern belt, up to Abia and all that. So these are potential areas. We have almost 1 billion tons of seams of 1 billion tons of coal that had been as resource and reserve in Nigeria. And analysis have shown that some of these REEs, if it's 1.487 billion tons in different districts, and some of these RE concentrations can vary between 270 and 1480 ppm. And these are deemed as such potential source. So if Nigeria could not compete in terms of looking at the carbonatites like you have in Namibia, that you have in Malawi, that you have in Congo Democratic Republic, because those are craton areas, we can do with our diverse alkaline rocks, our coal, and our pegmatites that we have in Nigeria. So what are the potential targets that I said in Nigeria? Targets, alkaline rocks, cyanides, cyanokites, phosphates, coal. So what do we then do? The important thing, and that has resonated in this conference that I've learned a lot, is that we must now begin not just to see them as just raw materials. We must now begin to have a directed plan, a roadmap for value chain development. Some of these low value minerals that we have in Nigeria in terms of their content does not have to be shipped out cheaply. But we are competing with a world that is so capitalistic. I used to say it, minerals are capitals. They are money. And anything that has to do with international trade with money, you must be ready to look to fight with cartels. You must be ready to also go and compete intelligently. You must be strategic. We must have a roadmap. Africa must have a roadmap now for its critical minerals, or the minerals that are critical for the green energy concept. I do some work with the African Minerals Development Center, and I also I want to congratulate all our excellencies today for this Africa Minerals Strategy Group. The African Minerals Development Center should be a place also that they can harness this. They have a Jimmy Center, that's the African Union Commission. They have this, so they could work together. They're already doing a lot, especially in the area of Pan-African Reserve and Resource Codes, in the area of the AMREC, the African Minerals Resources and Energy Code. They're also looking at the geological minerals and information systems. So we need to integrate all this together and know that Africa will still supply the world these minerals, but not in their raw form. So we must now begin to look at the value chain concept, especially for REEs. And this is how the value chain for the REE goes. But we must start with a clear roadmap and a clear strategy to do that. And then what also happens is we must also situate it within the African mining vision. It's so important, because if we're working not in tandem and we're working away from a clear vision, then we may not really be able to harness the potentials and get the energy that we need to move together to move on. So we must look at the African mining vision. There must be a specific a specific and deliberate act to look at it also, not just within the division, but to domesticate the vision within the different African countries and integrate it with some of the initiatives like the one that I've started today. Then under that, we also have the PAC, like I said, the Pan-African Reserve and Resource Code. Then, in conclusion, we must have, like I said, clear roadmap for green energy minerals, inter-African strategy along the value chain, AFCTA, and then the regional economic blocks. And for Nigeria, we must now begin to have a strategic, if it's not done already, strategic roadmap for these critical minerals. Let us harness them. What are the stages we need to go through? How do we explore for them? How do we start having development? How do we think about financing along this? Because this is the way the world is going now. Thank you for listening.
Of course, we can appreciate Professor Okunola better, a geoscientist with over 40 years experience. Please another round of applause for him. Holds a PhD in economic geology from the University of Ibadan, where he's a full professor and the head of the Department of Geology. I'd like the ushers to please do me a favor. Make sure no one is standing at the back of this room. We want to do something quickly now, and I hear that the organizers have something for whoever is able to tell us something significant he or she learned from what Professor just talked about. So if you took something, if you learned something, or you have something important to add to it, just in a few seconds, I'd like you to please just indicate by lifting up your hand, and the microphone will get to you. Quickly. 1, 2 people. Do we have anyone? Did we listen to Professor Okunola? All right. So can the mic move as fast as possible? So, Professor, I hope you're listening to your students. All right. So quickly, your name and tell us what you got from what Professor said.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Blessing Amajama from Jam Development Initiative, and I got to listen, and I understand that natural resources, the world is in need of it, especially gold, and we have in abundance in Nigeria. And if you want to do global business, global trade, especially in mining, you have to be ready of some of the challenges like cartels, professionally competition outside the country, and some of the few things that you should expect when dealing with trade in that large form. Thank you very much.
That's a brilliant student. A round of applause for her. Any other person? One more? One more. Okay, I think I'll take you. So when he's done, let's have him, and then we'll have the third person.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Isa Mohamed Hamza, Permanent Secretary, Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry, Taraba State. I look at his mapping and the studies made. In fact, I've not seen a captured Taraba or anything on that. As such, I think he should extend his research into Taraba valleys.
Fantastic. That's a fantastic observation. Professor, I hope you took note. Thank you very much, Permanent Secretary. One more, and then we would run to the next item on the agenda.
Thank you and good day all. I am Professor Raphael Ofio from the University of Calabar Carbon Innovation Center. Yeah, given what Prof said and what other speakers have said here, and given the fact that we are trying to tie mining to energy generation and transition to a better source of energy, I just want to, add up to say that while we are doing this, the rural communities are where we are having these raw materials, and yet they are so poor and miss plenty. Now, looking at the energy transition with the mining companies or corporations around this area, we can move beyond what we are trying to do, looking at the general GDP and all of that, by empowering them through simple, local, circular economic principles. For instance, in Calabar now and Cross River State, what we are trying to do from our center, we've been able to come up with climate-smart innovations using completely local materials, like climate-smart generators climate smart cassava grinding machines and all that. So we need to train them, build them up. Beyond the companies employing them, we can teach them how to produce these things. From there will be, knowledge transfer amongst them, and they'll begin to build up their major sources of energy, and even using their local materials from wisdom, palm kernel shells, rice husk, cocoa pods, and all that to develop briquettes for alternative source of energy that will reduce the dependence on charcoal, making and firewood. So once we do this, you realize that our local economy will begin to boost courtesy of these companies that are around there. So mining is one, so good. Like in Cross River State, we have a lot of mining companies.
Okay.
But what are they really doing? So when we do this, we boost the local circular economy.
Thank you very much. Valid point, Professor. Please a round of applause for him. Thank you so much for that. So we'll move swiftly now to the next item on the agenda. And just to let you know that we have something very big coming up, so you want to wait for that. And now would hear from the representative of Ayo Ekpo, that's the CEO of Excredite Consulting, and Osefa Anegbe, an energy lawyer, would be representing him. A round of applause for her as she comes forward. She has about 2-3 minutes to do this presentation. She has to summarize. Yes, I know she can do that. And it's an exploration of dynamics, benefits, and transformative potential in effective PPPs. Please, a round of applause for Anegbe.
All right. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Permit me to stand on existing protocols. My name is Osefa Anegbe, like she just said. I'm here representing Mr. Ayo Olagoke Ekpo, who really wanted to be here, but is unavoidably absent. And I'll be making the presentation on public-private partnerships in resource development. I have 3 minutes. Which one is it? 3 minutes or 23 minutes? Okay. This is it. Okay, great. All right, so just a brief overview of what the topic is about, public-private partnerships. Now, when we hear partnerships, I mean, it definitely means that there are two parties involved, which is the public sector and the private sector, and both of them contributing investments and then also expecting returns. So the public sector coming together with the private sector to both collaborate, put in their investments, and then both expect returns in different ways. Now, in the ever-evolving landscape of resource development, PPPs have become such a transformative tool and an approach for governments to develop their natural resources, right? This shows us the overview. So you have the stage where there's a planning, there is financing of the project, there's a project design, there is the building of the project, there's operation, as well as maintenance. And if we're able to do this and harness both strengths, what you have is collaborations that unlock resource management, that promote resource management. Moving over now to my next slide. Is looking at African countries, right? There are many African countries who already have private-public partnership frameworks. So I'll use the term PPP here. They already have frameworks that guide their PPP processes, procurement, collaborations, contracting. Now, looking at the information from the World Bank in 2020, we had most African countries who already have the policies. You had 14 countries who had both PPP laws and units, but then with less 5 recorded transactions. Then you have countries who had PPP laws, units, but never really led to a deal, right? So according to the Vice President of the World Bank's Private Sector and Infrastructure and industrialization, he had made a note to say, and I'm quoting him, that the African Development Bank estimates that Africa's infrastructure financing needs at up to 170 billion a year by 2025, with an estimated financing gap of up to 68 to 108 billion, pardon me, a year. So PPPs are a key element in narrowing this gap because you're able to pull in resources. Now, government may not necessarily have the necessary finance required for this project, which is why you need private investors to come in. The map shows you the countries that currently have these PPP laws, and then it also shows you countries, the places colored black, countries that do not have PPP laws. But then the real question is, if you have such a number of African countries who have their PPP frameworks already established, why aren't there so many deals? What's limiting these deals? My next slide will show you some of the challenges that have been identified, right? That have limited these deal flows, some of which are putting the framework into action, right? So there are existing frameworks, but then the question is, how do we implement these frameworks? How do we implement these regulations? How do we handle stakeholder management, the model documents, the tariff policies, the fiscal risk management, the project identification, which projects actually require PPPs or can be used, or can PPPs be used for, and which ones should we just go about financing by ourselves or developing ourselves? Then another challenge is ensuring public institutions that are capable. Recall that from my first slide, I talked about this is a partnership between two different entities, the public sector and the private sector. On the side of the public institution, we have to be able to identify if they are capable, if they're ready, if they have the technical, financial, legal capability to be able to handle this project. Do they have capable advisors? Do they have capable, credible procurement processes as well? The next challenge would be sharing knowledge and lessons, right? And that's the knowledge transfer between parties. Then another point would be the support for private sector development, which deals with strengthening the domestic financial institutions, supporting private investors, and catalyzing the development of domestic advisory markets. Now, these are some of the challenges that African nations had faced, which is why we've had limited deal processes over the years. But then I would like to emphasize and just draw our attention to one of the points that I had highlighted here, which is stakeholder management. We all know that public assets do not hang in the air. They're usually controlled by agencies which exist for those purposes, or agencies who derive financial benefits from those assets. Now, the question is, if you want to unbundle or you want to partner with private investors and you're trying to work around the process, are there processes are there frameworks in line that are able to bring about all the necessary stakeholders? Are there incentives management? Do you have situations where you're not having meetings that are stalling these processes, where you have people nitpicking on agreements and then having people tell you, oh, come and walk me through this process again, come and walk me through this agreement again? So those are some of the challenges that we face with public-private partnerships. Moving on now to the next slide. I'm trying to hurry this up as quickly as possible. The dynamics for an effective public-private partnership. Now, what are the things that you're required to be seen to be able to produce an effective public-private partnership, a PPP? One is risk sharing and equitable distribution of benefits. PPP projects are usually, PPP as a model is usually used for projects that are long-term, capital intensive, right? And you have a situation where there is risk involved. There is financial risk, there's also technical risk involved, and long-term risk. So you have a situation whereby if the parties are able to share risk in an equitable manner and also benefit fairly, then you have an effective PPP. Another point would be the complementary roles and responsibilities of both the government and private sectors. Now, before I go to that point out, I highlighted aligning incentives and fostering collaboration. Recall that I talked about stakeholder management, right? So if you are unbundling these assets and you're collaborating with private sectors, you want to be able to ensure that the incentives that you have put in place for those who are managing these public assets are well understood and are properly implemented, where you're able to align those, and the incentives that you have also provided for the private investors who are coming in on board as well are properly clearly stated, really clearly stated and properly implemented or allocated. Then if you're able to do that and foster the right collaboration through communication, you have an effective PPP working. Complementary roles and responsibilities of government and private sectors. If you want to have a synergy between these partners, you definitely need an enabling policy and regulatory environment, one that is predictable, one that the private investor, the private partner is sure that as I put in my investment, I'm getting the returns that you have provided me. And if there are any changes, we're able to work around that. With that kind of synergy, The private investor is bringing his own expertise, his own capital, his own technological prowess. And with that synergy, you're able to achieve an effective PPP. I'll move over now to what a PPP would look like. That's a private-public partnership in a resource development. So some of the benefits that you get from achieving a successful or an effective PPP is, one, increased increased access to capital, technology, and expertise, enhanced economic efficiency and operational effectiveness, and improved infrastructure and service delivery, maximization of natural resources, and environmentally sustainable and socially inclusive development. So I'll emphasize on economic efficiency, and that's because in the end, what the government wants is for their resources, for our resources to be developed, and what the private investor wants is to get returns. So, but if you're able to do that collaboratively and with economic efficiency, you're sure that your resources are not being wasted and they are maximally being used, right? So that's one of the benefits you have for employing a PPP model. And the other point on environmental sustainability is that you do not want to develop resources in such a way that they destroy you, right? So you want to be able to work around an arrangement that ensures that the resources, the natural resources that we're all speaking to here, are properly developed in a way that the people benefit and the people don't suffer for it. So my next point on the transformative potential of a public-private partnership, right, for our natural resources development. It's one, it drives innovation and technological advancement, right? So it also promotes environmental stewardship and climate change mitigation. It strengthens the governance and transparency. It fosters inclusive economic growth and community development. Now, in a situation whereby you have resource scarcity, because some of these resources, yes, we have them in abundance, but they are scarce. They're not everywhere, right? You have some resources that are very much available in Nigeria, but in other countries in Africa, they're not there. So these resources are quite scarce, and they also want to be able to develop them. So where you have that, and you have the issues around environmental degradation, climate changes, a public-private partnership can help support the development of these resources in a very sustainable manner if we're able to work around the terms for that partnership. Through targeted investment and technology progress, and as well as community-focused strategies, PPPs can shape a future where resource development meets global needs sustainably, benefiting both the planet and the local communities. And to add to that, these public assets, although they are regulated by government entities, they are actually being held in trust for the people. That's the community. That's some of the stakeholders that need to benefit from that partnership. Rounding up now, I would go over to what a synergy between the government and private sector looks like. This is really just to emphasize my previous point on government creating an enabling policy and regulatory environment, the private sector contributing in terms of investment, management, and expertise, and then an effective communication and coordination mechanism. In simple terms, what this really means is both parties working together hand by hand and understanding that there is a goal, regardless of what our personal interest is. There's a goal we're trying to achieve with this project, and we are constantly communicating and coordinating each side to achieve that goal. And even if there are pitfalls here and there, we are able to work around those pitfalls, find solutions, and keep that goal in mind. And with that, if you have a synergy between these two, you'd have your project done and your goal achieved. My next slide, okay. So my next slide will just highlight some of the examples that we've seen around the world. There's so many countries that use the public-private partnership model. I just decided to highlight 3, which is the renewable energy public-private PPP in India, for short. And you have the one in Norway oil and gas, and then the sustainable mining PPP in Australia. What these countries have done is really just to harness the PPP model to be able to develop their resources in a very sustainable manner. We're all hear every now and then about what Norway is doing with clean energy and energy transition and how they collaborate with both private investors, international investors as well, to be able to achieve this. Same thing goes for India. The last speaker highlighted something about solar, right, solar energy, and that's what India too has done. India has collaborated with private investors to develop large-scale solar projects, to be able to harness that resource, that sunlight that they have, to provide power supply for their people. Australia is doing the same thing with mining. I mean, we have these things present in other African countries as well. So bringing it back home, which is Africa, as at 2018, the AFDB had reported that African countries had accounted for more than 50% of all successful PPP activity. And we're looking at countries like South Africa, Morocco, Egypt, and even Nigeria, right? And then Ghana. And then other countries also joined with multiple PPPs that were in pipeline at the time. I mean, we don't have the data for 2024 yet, but this is something that shows that this model is being used progressively, because even in Burkina Faso and in Botswana, this model is being employed. A key example for us is the Kigali bulk water supply project. I mean, that project was approved to commence in 2015, and as of 2023, the facility was completed. It's a 27-year PPP, it's a 27-year agreement, pardon me, and just looking at how they're able to bring together 3 financiers as well as the government to develop the first of its kind water project in sub-Saharan Africa. And this is a model that can be employed by many other countries, including Nigeria as well. In Nigeria, we have the Kanji Jeba and Shiroro Hydro Power Plant concession. This project has really, really highlighted the use of concession contracts. I mean, before 2013, when this was handed over, the Kanji Dam had a capacity for 760 megawatts, but wasn't producing any. As of today, it has exceeded that capacity, and we all know that our hydro plants right now are the major contributors, or even the generators that are actually contributing to our national grid or power supply amidst the thermal power plants that we have. So this is a very successful model that we have tried. Sometime last week, I read in the news that Nigeria is set to do 6 other concessions, hydropower plant concessions. So we're looking to see how that works out, right? But this just goes to show that the public-private partnership model is such a transformative approach to develop your natural resources in Africa. To wrap it up, some of the challenges and considerations that we would see in utilizing the model will be balancing both interests, both the public interest and the private interest. And just to reiterate, the public interest, even if it's government that is stepping in to enter into that partnership, you also have interest of communities as well. Private interest is the businessman. He's in for the money. He's here to make profits. So how do you balance that? The second consideration will be to ensure transparency and accountability as the project goes on. And then the third consideration as well will be to address whatever capacity gaps or institutional barriers that may occur during the lifeline of that project. To summarize, some of the key points that I have, tried to rush off in my presentation today is, 1, there's a need to communicate and collaborate with the stakeholders. The second is to work with a support group or a resource development partner all through the lifeline of the project. Another point would be that the key driver for a sustainable energy future or sustainable energy development would be a PPP model, because it does ensure a balance of interest. The fourth point would be, beyond operational efficiencies and financial gains, both parties need to keep their eye on the goal and